fidelitygroup.com. Fidelity, we're good for you.
Also brought to you by greenturtle.ky. Take a ride on the Green Turtle Express today. Download the Green Turtle app. The future of mobile. Saving lives today.
Oh, I think they're doing a great job. A lot of them are.
Good afternoon, Dwayne. How are you?
Not too bad, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Radio Cayman's Talk Today with Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
But I do have some questions.
There are more questions than answers.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today. If you're ready to talk, we're willing to listen.
Well, I really enjoy this program today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
May God bless every person.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome. It's another wonderful Wednesday as we invite you to be a part of today's Talk Today. Honored to be able to invite Honorable Minister for Education together with our Chief Officer to share with us. So stay tuned for Talk Today.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today, the Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program. We ask our listeners to avoid statements or comments which are abusive, derogatory, malicious, or defamatory. Do not use any indecent language or make any statement which is false or misleading. Email talktoday@candw.ky or call 1-800-534-8255. Courtesy of Flow.
Cayman's #1 network that connects you to your world like never before.
Let your voice be heard. Once again, here's your host, Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome. Thank you for joining us. And as we invite you today to be a part of a discussion, remember that the political briefing is scheduled for today, as well as the Public Accounts Committee has been on. Hopefully, you've been able to have a chance to listen to it on our Breeze FM 949-8037 or 1-800-534-8255. As we get things squared away and be able to invite our Honorable Education Minister to join us. I think many of us always invested heavily in our education infrastructure, from the teaching and learning in the classrooms to all that transpires within our communities, to the, I think, very important recognition of how significant education is to our country, from those very early formative years to the students' post-secondary education, to their pursuit of it as a lifelong student. And it isn't just the academic credentials, the certifications and technical skills, but it's a knowledge sort of transference that we have from the intergenerational connections to the notion that as people travel, they come here, we travel places, we learn new techniques and technologies, we deploy them in an effective, meaningful manner. I invite you to share with us now. 1-800-534-8255, or you can always call 949-8037. Certainly, you can always WhatsApp 925-3261 and be a part of anything that we have here in a question, comment, or query. Anytime you need further information or clarification, we want to be a part of being able to not just disseminate information, but to hear from you. Not as I look at a few of the comments that have come through previously, we've had a number of individuals share in the last few days how their lives had changed. Now, I share that to say this, that working remotely for some has been their mantra for a long time, partly because of how they travel for work. And as we've been sort of forced, what is it that we share? Necessity is the mother of invention at times. We're now finding that it has become immediately, a demonstration how adaptable and accommodating a person can be. But equally, it's not just the technology, whether it's the physical cables to connect you, whether it's the internet protocols that you have to sort of use, but the physical infrastructure is also the people to make things, run as efficiently, effectively, and as seamlessly and smoothly as possible. And in number, as we are, getting ready to be able to momentarily, hopefully, be able to connect up all of our guests and have the conversation roll as planned. What about you? While you wait, maybe you could call and share your thoughts. Are you finding this new season of work to be something that you have embraced and really would want to continue? Has it been easier, and from the perspective that you can get the work done without having to worry so much about quote unquote the office politics? Or has it been more challenging, taxing, frustrating, and not only having to learn the technology, but to be able to balance everything at the same time, prompts from the same space, whereas physically you were able to be at work and then you leave that physical space to come home and be in another physical space, your home. Now the personal and the workspace is all one. I share that because earlier I got invited to be a part of a conversation with some individuals who were saying that, as champions for change, as one or two of them have, sort of opted to sort of phrase their approach as thought leaders. They're suggesting that whether it's the whole notion of being a part and parcel of the perspective of, the change that oftentimes we've seen evident by the civil service, its sheer nature, the innovativeness that has come, whether it was the reinventing government in the 90s or whether it's the recent initiatives. Well, maybe you can share with us. And again, it's an evident that as we leverage our technology. Now, we are, in very short order, connecting up the Honorable Education Minister. We'll also have our Chief Officer, the excellent intellect of Mr. Tonya Cacho, joining us as well. And we invite you to share and be a part of it. Now, just for those who are listening, the Chief Officer is online. And perhaps with great respect, Mr. Tonya, I'm not sure whether you are, you know, able to just maybe briefly, sort of unofficially, if you want, to just say hello and good afternoon while we wait for the Honorable Minister to get connected up. How are you today, ma'am?
I'm well, thanks. How are you doing?
Excellent, excellent. And thank you all very much, for joining us. I'm hoping that as a listening public, that we appreciate the incredible uh, taxing demands that must be placed on, people like you as chief officer and honorable minister having to balance things and not, you know, for some we find it much easier to be able to physically do things. Now we have to do things sort of, in a virtual realm, which isn't always as easy as people make it out to be, right?
No, we have an amazing team over in the ministry. We have an amazing team in the Department of Education Services, and of course the teams in all of our schools have just been working incredibly hard over the last few weeks and months to help ensure that education continues for our children. And I think we've all been really, hands-on with making sure education progresses. And it's only now that we're really kind of getting a breath of air to talk to people about some of the things that we've been doing, some of the exciting projects that have emerged as a result of utilizing some of our online platforms and other innovative ideas. So we're really grateful to have the opportunity to share what our schools and our department and our ministry has been doing over the last few weeks and months. So thank you for the opportunity.
Well, listen, it is truly an honor, and if I sort of get very excited and like, what I say, a child in a candy store at Christmas. Well, it's just that I honestly believe my education is that thing. It's not a political mantra. It's not something that an individual will champion. It's just so important for a society. And you ever saw a young child playing with a toy or a book or whatever, that thing is fascinating, whether it's shiny, whether it's the box that the thing came in, the discovery that comes with it. It's just so wonderful to learn things.
Yeah, it really has been an amazing few weeks. And I know that I've just praised our education team, but I also need to really praise our parents and guardians of our children. These persons have not only had to be mom, dad, or guardian, they've also had to be chef, be teacher, be maid, be counselor. They've taken on so many roles while also having to work remotely, or some may have lost employment during this time and have been under extra stress, or some may have been ill. So our parent partners, our guardian partners have just been extraordinary in helping us meet the needs of their children over this time.
And thank you for sharing that, because I was reflecting just earlier while we were trying to leverage all the technology and get everything and remind people that life doesn't exist in a vacuum. You're,
No.
as independent as you may be, you're not an island. There's everything that's interconnected, right? And as I was sort of thinking of the conversation, I was glad to be a part of earlier, just to listen, to learn, to understand. I was thinking maybe if it's not inappropriate while we're waiting to get sort of everything squared away, maybe you could guide me as just regular, ordinary beings, living and working in this very, relatively speaking, small space. We think back to our parents and grandparents, and even their parents and grandparents. Came on where, as you just described, the parent was all of those things then, and with a lot less to do, the stuff that they needed to do. They didn't have all the resources that we may have, but the demands on their time, the things that they needed to do were so much more. They had less and therefore had to do a lot more with the little that they did have. Have
Yeah.
we now come back in a sense to reality and maybe a sense of appreciation as to what our parents, grandparents may have had to endure?
I certainly agree. And I think, I always have believed that we have an incredibly strong Caymanian community. And that
Hmm.
includes those that are Caymanian status holders, the persons who are here for work. Our community as a whole has been very strong and very responsive. And we've seen that over the last few weeks. And I think everybody has really gone above and beyond their call of duty, their normal working hours, to be able to take care of not only their own families, but the
Hmm.
community as a whole. And I think it's been very encouraging to watch how our entire island responds to a pandemic and how well we've done overall.
Indeed. And it was a question that, I did not, because of, I guess, like many of us, we have demands. So while I sort of used that opportunity this morning to learn and to hopefully leverage it for a future show, I had to leave before, still have probably a few minutes left of that sort of training session, as I call it. But I left walking away with a sense that in our community, there there are too many of us, and for those who did not study economics, they'll forgive me for using the term, who are free riders, who are just willing to sit by, and if it goes good, they'll benefit from it. But if it doesn't, they can step away and say, well, wasn't me. And thankfully, maybe they're not that many of us that are like that. But from what you just shared, if there are more of us who are stepping up and continuing to do as much as we can, some who have gone, beyond the call of duty, man, how much more we could see in terms of the improvements, the positivity, the benefits.
Yeah. And the minister, I'm sure you're going to hear from her in just a little bit. She's really excited to share the initiatives that we've been working on. But from our perspective in the ministry, we've really seen our community partners step up. We've
Hmm.
increased and enhanced our partnerships with the Department of Children and Family Services, the Needs Assessment Unit, for example, Red Cross, you name it. We've really strengthened those partnerships across the community. So our experience has been really positive in terms of persons stepping up and saying, hey, how can we help? We will put forward money, we will put forward donations, we will put forward time, we will risk our own safety in some instances to make sure that all of our
Hmm.
children get the services that they need.
Yeah, man. And that is the exciting thing that I like, what we've seen done, and perhaps that serving as a platform for what we can do now to benefit all of us, but position us for future generations to continually improve. I guess, in a sense, not unlike what our forefathers did in preparing us for the future we enjoy today. Now, are we going to be good stewards and take this inheritance and molded in such a way that it's not just only a safe, stable, secure society, but it's a people who are working for, the greater good because they're working together to make it better. And it's exciting. I mean, I was just reflecting as I go through the sort of today's guest, and with great respect, perhaps since she may not mind, since she's not quite ready yet. I was looking at the honorable minister as an educator who used to be a PE instructor for some of us, uh, continually training, becoming an attorney, qualified, a farmer. That sort of example, that resolve, that resilience us to inspire not just those who are immediately around, but for those of us from a distance that can admire that work ethic, that drive and determination, as you said, that sense of resolve and resilience that is very, very evident in our people.
Yeah, and I agree. And I think that the minister has always shared her very interesting story of, her career changes and how hard she has worked, and the many firsts that she has made as a woman as well. It has been really good for us in the ministry to have a minister who has an education background. It certainly helps, and I think she provides lots of motivation for young men, but also especially young women who are interested in following similar career paths.
Indeed, and that is the thing that I believe that is very, very, I don't know, so important in a sense, very, very important in this country. We can easily look at, people we can call heroes. People can inspire us. They're not that far. They're probably just down the street from us. Our parents probably know them. If we got older siblings, they probably know them. And we don't need to just look at the history books from other countries or figures that we would see in the media. These are real life people who we can relate to when they speak. We can understand them because their dialect and their colloquialisms and mannerisms sort of resemble, us and our parents. And it's good to have other figures that we can be inspired by. But man, to know that this person is somebody who is of the soil, as it were, should make it that much more attainable when we think of the potential success that lies ahead.
Certainly.
Mr. Toyo, we perhaps if Mr. Carl is ready, let's probably quickly pause and take a break. For those who are listening, if you do not believe the incredible amount of effort, work, commitment, and sacrifice, that our civil servants and our elected, ministers and cabinet, you, you need to think again, as Luigi used to share. It's an amazing amount of time. Honorable Minister is literally dashing from one meeting to the next, so we'll have her connected up as soon as we can tie the two cables together and put alligator clips on and get everything set and hopefully be able to join us. We'll just pause quickly, take a short break. When we come back, we'll continue the discussion. We have the excellent company of the Chief Officer, Mr. Tony Shojo. So please stay tuned.
The Wharf Restaurant is back open to the public. After donating over 20,000 meals during the lockdown, we are energized and proud to have been able to help. Book your waterfront reservations today and enjoy live music while watching the sunset on our spacious and breezy terrace. The Wharf has fresh fish and fresh local produce options every day, as well as an extensive wine list. We are family and kid-friendly with a kids menu and tap and feeding every night. We are looking forward to welcoming you back. Call 949-2231 to book your table today at The Wharf.
This Father's Day, more than ever, Celebrations wants to deliver an extra special thank you and show appreciation and love to the other unsung hero, Dad. Celebrate your favorite bud with a great gift basket filled with special treats such as fruits, gourmet goodies, beverages of choice, all uniquely designed for him. With every order this Father's Day, Celebrations will be donating part proceeds to local charity, Feed Our Future, and helping to support families. Celebrations will be doing island-wide, safe, non-contact delivery from this Thursday, June 18th until Sunday, June 21st. Call us on 623-2044 or place your order online at www.celebrationsgifts.com. Happy Father's Day from Celebrations. Home which should be a haven, can even be less of a safe space during curfew if someone is experiencing child abuse. If you or anyone you know is being abused, help is nearby. For emergencies, call 911. They will redirect your call to the relevant agencies. For general guidelines and inquiries, call the Multi-Agency Safeguarding Hub, MASH, at 1-800-534-2273 or 945-0545. Alternatively, email mash@gov.ky.
The Cayman Islands government wishes to advise the public that they will continue to distribute reusable cloth masks across the Cayman Islands with the assistance of the RCIPS Community Police Officer and Community Safety Officer in your areas. Members of the public living in gated stratas are asked to contact the Community Policing Department at the Georgetown Police Station on 649-4222 to arrange delivery or collection of their mask. Stay safe, Cayman.
The Economics and Statistics Office are currently conducting the annual business surveys. The surveys seek to measure the performance of all local industries. Survey forms for this year are mailed or emailed to all entities operating in the Cayman Islands. The business surveys are confidential under the Statistics Law and are exempt from the Freedom of Information Law. Your response matters. Do your part. Fill out and return your survey forms to the Economics and Statistics Office. For assistance in filling out the forms or for more information, visit eso.ky or call 525-8565 or 325-6652.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waging to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon, and thank you so much for joining us. Very, very grateful that we'll be able to have the opportunity to continually have access to our elected members in government to be able to not only become informed and updated, but to have the opportunity to show that we have a very, very healthy and vibrant democracy. We're honored to be able to welcome the Honorable Minister of Education, Honorable Juliana O'Connor, together with her Chief Officer, Mr. Tonya Cancho. Honorable Minister, good afternoon, and thank you for making time for us today. We know you have a very taxing day as many, so thank you so much. Good afternoon, Honorable Minister.
Good afternoon, Dwayne. How are you?
Very thankful, ma'am. I'm hopefully you're able to hear us. I know sometimes the technology works excellently. Sometimes.
No, I haven't heard anything except original answer to the call, and you know.
Oh, okay. Well, we're very, very grateful that you were able to, share with us. We know that there are many demands on your time getting things, but we were glad for the few minutes to speak to the Chief Officer, just as a way to sort of set the tone. Before we perhaps get started, Ms. Cacho, is there anything else you want to share in relation to introducing a conversation today, or should I just, what would you direct, ma'am?
I just want to say that we're very grateful to have the opportunity to talk with the community about some of the amazing things that have been happening in education and how we have, as a community, has responded to this pandemic. I know the minister has a long list of initiatives that she wants to share that she's really excited about as well. So we're just grateful for the opportunity.
All right, excellent. Well, with that, Honorable Minister, I think education is that thing that we all stand on as being great champions. So again, thank you so much, and we're excited to hear some of the plans, the strategies, the accomplishments, and the things that lie ahead for us.
All right, Dwayne, thanks to you and Radio Cayman as always for graciously extending an invitation for my minister's team and I to come on and share with the general public and indeed get feedback from them. It will be no surprise to you that I want to come into prayer. I hope there's no objections.
No, ma'am.
Okay, thank you so much. Always appreciate that. Father God, we want to thank you yet another time for this opportunity, Lord, to share with my team, to the wider Caymanian public, Lord, what has been going on in education. We know that we're no normal times, but Lord, we serve a God who specializes in impossibilities. And Lord, long before we call, you have answered. Lord, we want to thank you for the cooperation. We want to thank you for the diligence. We want to thank you for all of the staff members that fall underneath the ministry for working assiduously outside the normal expectations, Lord, to ensure that we deliver first-class education to our students. Lord, we thank you for the OES department. We thank you for the private sector and for those who have prayed and fasted for us during this time. We thank you for your protection. And Lord, we are looking forward, Lord, with confidence that you're going to take us safely through this uncharted waters of COVID-19. And as we go in now to talk about education, we pray that your name will be exalted as we look unto the hills from whence cometh our help, knowing and being fully cognizant that our help, our strength, our assistance, our resilience cometh from no one else but Father God. We thank you in the mighty name of Jesus. Amen. Thanks for that opportunity, Dwayne.
Amen. Amen. Thank you too, Mom.
No problem. Time permitting, my team and I would like to touch in some detail a number of things. Obviously, it's not all of the things that we've been doing, but we tried to pick out some of the most topical and current and important issues. Obviously, on many people's minds would be the school inspection report. We want to talk about those 12 recommendations. We want to also have an opportunity to talk about our continuity of operations that plan for 2020 and 2021, which was sent out in April of this year to all of our school establishments. We want to talk about the private school one-time grant, in addition to the annual grant that we give them to respond to the needs arisen under COVID-19. We wish to speak to a program which we're launching with the full support of our cabinet. It's to go to caucus this evening, but we'll talk generally about a one-to-one laptop program for our students. We want to talk about the government support to enable my ministry to be able now to pay the contracted vendors. We want to speak to the temporary relaxation of scholarship requirement for our students and go into that in some details. We would wish also to state, Mr. Ebanks, that the public perhaps might or might not be aware that our CXC examinations for our students, that timetable has been changed as a direct result of the COVID-19. They commence now on the 13th of July and culminating on the 2nd of August. So I had to take a paper to cabinet for a provision, obviously, to give a stipend remuneration to those hardworking teachers who will go the extra mile during July rather than take their normal vacation. And so we'll be giving them a stipend up to $1,000 to assist with this extra push across the finish line for students so that they can excel when they sit the examination in these very turbulent times. And then we're very, very excited about the general guidance for schools, but the team worked very diligently together with myself. We've now completed that, and we hope to get that issued either the end of this week or early next week to all of our schools so that they'll be in black and white and color, I might add, what the guidance are from now through September and beyond. So that's kind of the framework of what we like to do today, if time permits.
Well, we're very grateful, and hopefully we can get to it because it's important. So you, as normal, the effective leader that you are, take point and let us follow the examinations that you shared. It's July the 13th through August. You pick them in order you wish to share, and we'll dive in with questions as you deem appropriate.
Okay. We would start in with the school inspection report because I think that's in everybody's mind before they get it. There were, and let me say up front so that I can put it in proper perspective. Once we had got in and we closed the schools back in March, and I want to say that I'm very grateful for the foresight that ministry exuded in closing the schools, we were some of the first in the world, actually, to close it because we always take the health and the welfare of our faculty and our students to be a paramount consideration. And so we did not want one of the most vulnerable groups, which would be the children, the other being the senior citizens or the mature citizens, to just become victims to this very unbiased pandemic that we're now seem to be operating in. So within about a month of us having rolled out our plans and our teachers getting in high gear, and I want to applaud the principals and the staff and UCCI as well, the president and the chairman and the board of governors for their creativity and their innovation in hosting and celebrating a number of important functions, including but not limited to the important milestones of graduation and school leaving ceremonies. I've been able to sit into some of those, and it's so exciting to see how finally, and I say finally because that's been something we've been working towards, this tripartite relationship of education, the school, the parents, and the children, all coming together in very, very hard circumstances to work. So I come from the background whereby we are as strong as our weakest link, and I thought that perhaps except since Ivan and Paloma, we haven't been hit so hard as a country, as an individual, as an institution, than what we're being hit with COVID-19. And thank God it could be much worse, so we're grateful for his miraculous answer to many prayers. But I wanted to have my schools tested during one of the most pandemic time, pardon the pun, to see what we were doing right, what could be enhanced, what could be tweaked. But equally important, I was confident that when the report came out, and I expected it to be a fair and independent report, it would show that the underlying modus operandi of my staff, from minister straight down to nursery, was to ensure that we deliver equal access and a world-class education to all. And if, as the report would have shown, and I'll ask the Chief Officer to go into more detail as to the ministerial response, it will show that perhaps one of the biggest things was the necessity for computers. And I'm happy to say that from last August, when I did my August address to all of the teachers, we were able, through the support of my colleagues in government, to provide every single teacher in our public schools with computers. And our plan was to do the same for our students. Of course, COVID-19 came along, and that expedited the process. And hopefully with the support of my colleagues in cabinet in caucus at 4 o'clock this afternoon, we would get that one-to-one computer program approved and subject to delivery under normal procurement rules. We would hope to get that in place by September, certainly at the very latest end of the fall term. And Dwayne, I would also like at this juncture to thank the members in the private sector, Mr. Cleaver, Woody Foster, and Dan Scott, and others, who generously came together and will be donating 1,500 of the 5,001 computers that we will need to supply our students come September, the fall semester. So if I could perhaps then go on to the first recommendation from Mr. Carpenter, Peter Carpenter, said that the Ministry of Education, in collaboration with wider government departments, to develop a comprehensive educational digital strategy to promote high-quality learning for all students in government schools, incorporating regular opportunities for students to learn more effectively at home as well as schools. And we did exceptionally well considering the circumstances, but we're never content in the Ministry of Education with status quo. So once we get all these computers for our students, we feel that we will just launch into the realm of success come the fall, despite all of the COVID challenges. And I would ask the Chief Officer if she could share the ministerial response to this recommendation that we needed more digital strategy.
Thank you, Minister. Yeah, the OES inspection report called for a digital strategy. Before schools closed, the ministry worked with the Department of Education Services to come up with a plan for school closures, which included providing distance learning. We recognized from before the closure of schools that education would be inconsistent in persons' homes for longer periods of time because it was really dependent on their circumstances. The Department of Education Services proactively sent out a survey to get a handle on the number of computers that students would have access to, whether families would have internet access, etc. And we did get a number of responses, but it was clear from the beginning that students didn't have enough devices, that students would not have consistent internet access. And so we didn't launch a full digital strategy because it would have been impossible to implement, especially in the homes of some of our most vulnerable students. Instead, as schools closed, we issued paper and activity-based packages to all students. And then we launched our online platforms for students who had access to computers and internet access, and we continued with paper-based and activity-based platforms for those that didn't. And this is an important message for persons to understand. If we had only focused on a digital strategy, we would have left out a huge portion of our children, which obviously we cannot do. So we looked at the best strategies to provide distance learning given the circumstances. As time went on, we realized that there was another issue we were dealing with. Parents who had indicated that yes, their child had access or children had access to a computer were now also having to work from home. And so that computer or computers were being shared by the parents or guardians, as well as multiple children in a family household, so there weren't enough. And therefore, it made it very much necessary for us to continue with the paper and activity-based packages, as well as an online platform or different online platforms, so that children would continue to have access to education. We also realized as well that not everybody at home had the technical knowledge to be able to support their children with online platforms. So we tried to have to balance that with making sure that parents could assist their children in an effective way, keeping in mind that parents were also working from home and so may not have had the time to provide the support needed in an online platform, etc. So these are some of the things that we were balancing throughout that time. Another issue that came up was that students were struggling to find quiet places to connect by Zoom or Microsoft Teams because, again, parents were having to work, multiple children in the home were doing different classes, and so in some cases it was easier and more convenient and more effective to provide paper and activity-based lessons because that was what worked for the child. And throughout this, that has really been our focus. We have responded in a way that works for the child or children that we're providing services for, rather than trying to make everything the same for everyone, regardless of their circumstances.
So making it specifically sort of tailor it to each environment, but then having the same deliverables in a sense.
Yeah, I think we were very sensitive to the fact that this was a pandemic. And so people were dealing with multiple issues in their home. And we had to be sensitive to that and respond to that so that students would continue to access education and continue to make progress without adding too much stress and strain.
Yeah.
Jane, if with your kind permission, that
yes, ma'am.
The public and yourself would perhaps remember that last year I took the initiative with the support of my colleagues in government to purchase hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of textbooks so that the children would not only have them in their classrooms, but they would have been able to take them home so that their parents could assist them with the work, and it could not have been at a more timely juncture in our school year, having got them last year, because I don't know what we would have done if we had to resort just to photocopying over and over. So I thank God that He gave a God idea, and that's what happens when you serve a God that cares and understands about everybody.
Meets the need before you even know you need it, huh?
Exactly.
In addition, sorry, Mr. Sterling, in addition, once we realized the struggle that parents were having and children were having with having access to laptops, we partnered with a number of community members, as the minister would have said, including Life and Rotary and a number of others. And those persons quickly sourced laptops, even some from their own companies, because as shops were closed, etc., we couldn't get laptops very quickly and bring them in very quickly. So the public sector really responded well in providing a number of laptops, and we had a team specifically set up from the ministry that were dealing with accepting those donations, imaging those computers, making sure that they were safe for students' use, and then having those delivered or picked up by families as needed.
Excellent.
The government is also providing, as Minister has said, laptops to all children. They had already done so for all of our teachers before the pandemic, and so that is something else that's currently in place. In addition, with the internet connectivity issues, of course, we in the ministry don't control who has internet and who doesn't, but what we did was we tried to reach out to all of the internet providers on island to find out if they could help, and we had a good response from many of them. And so some of them were able to provide wireless connectivity devices, which we were able to distribute to a number of families as well, so that they had access to online learning.
All right. Well, we do have a break and a news, and when we come back, well, certainly excited to learn more as you share with us. So to our listeners, please stay tuned for Talk Today.
Green Turtle, modern solutions to get you through the new normal. Download the Green Turtle app now and top up yours or a loved one's phone with any mobile carrier in any destination. Home delivery of laptops, tablets, phones, accessories, and iTunes and major online retailer gift cards. And now, home deliveries of groceries and courier service. Guaranteed delivery within 2 hours from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Visit their list of products at greenturtle.ky or download the Green Turtle app today. Green Turtle is not only the future of mobile, but today it can help save a life. Take a ride on the Green Turtle Express today. Download the Green Turtle app. The future of mobile, saving lives today.
The Wharf restaurant is back open to the public. After donating over 20,000 meals during the lockdown, we are energized and proud to have been able to help. Book your waterfront reservations today and enjoy live music while watching the sunset on our spacious and breezy terrace. The Wharf has fresh fish and fresh local produce options every day, as well as an extensive wine list. We are family and kid-friendly with a kids menu and tap and feeding every night. We are looking forward to welcoming you back. Call 949-2231 to book your table today at the Wharf.
You love your dad. A.L. Thompson's loves all dads, so we're offering gift ideas at discounts to help you get him what he wants this Father's Day. There's an 82-inch LG 4K Ultra High Def Smart TV on sale for just $19.95 and a 32-inch Smart LED TV for $219. Perhaps he'd want the Cool Zone ultrasonic dry misting system, or Bose headphones, a smartwatch, a Weber grill, a paddleboard, a power tool, or a Conair massager and groomer. See A.L. Thompson's special prices on Father's Day gift ideas at althompson.com and give Dad a gift he'll love.
Satisfaction is guaranteed 24 hours a day, whether it's music or information.
From Grand Cayman to Cayman Brac to Little Cayman, we've got you covered.
You ever hear a thing like that?
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman.
It's only 2 species that we have here on the island.
Generations present.
Your voice, your choice.
It is in the best interest of the people of these islands.
Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
With your headlines, I'm April Cummings. 6 positives for COVID-19 out of close to 1,000 tests conducted Friday through the holiday Monday. Chief Medical Officer Dr. John Lee says all 6 are asymptomatic, locally acquired cases picked up through the screening program. As of 5 p.m. yesterday, the islands have 193 confirmed cases, with 123 reported recoveries from COVID-19. More than 18,000 people have been tested, and there are 2 people with symptoms, 1 in the hospital. In international headlines, English soccer's longest suspension since World War II comes to an end today, bringing the country's favorite sport back to a nation that has struggled to protect its citizens during the coronavirus pandemic. The Premier League is the richest soccer league in the world with massive worldwide viewership. It was suspended on March 13th after Arsenal manager Mikel Arteta tested positive. The virus had been rapidly spreading from Italy and Spain to the rest of Europe, but it took soccer authorities to halt play, a move that has been credited with saving lives by keeping tens of thousands of fans in England from being infected at stadiums. China has raised its emergency warning to its second highest level, canceling more than 60% of the flights to Beijing today amid a new coronavirus outbreak in the capital. It was a sharp pullback for a nation that declared victory over COVID-19 in March, and a message to the rest of the world about just how tenacious it really is. Those are your headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom. I'm April Cummings.
For the latest in news and information,
follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, radiocayman.gov.ky.
your voice, your choice, your radio.
This Father's Day, more than ever, Celebrations wants to deliver an extra special thank you and show appreciation and love to the other unsung hero, Dad. Celebrate your favorite bud with a great gift basket filled with special treats such as fruits, gourmet goodies, beverages of choice, all uniquely designed for him. With every order this Father's Day, Celebrations will be donating part proceeds to local charity, Feed Our Future, and helping to support families. Celebrations will be doing island-wide, safe, non-contact delivery from this Thursday, June 18th until Sunday, June 21st. Call us on 623-2044 or place your order online at www.celebrationsgifts.com. Happy Father's Day from Celebrations.
Honey, our fridge has stopped working again. Everything in the freezer is melting. We need to get this repaired right away. I'm calling Brand Source Service.
When you need the very best appliance service, call Brand Source Service at 623-5000. Offering service and installation of all brands and models of appliances. Brand Source Service is Cayman's source for appliance parts and repairs with qualified and experienced technicians and the island's largest stock of appliance parts. Brand Source Service will have your repair completed in a flash. So, whatever the problem is, call the experts at 623-5000. Brand Source Service, Dorsey Drive, Industrial Park. Telephone 623-5000.
The Cayman Islands Regiment is looking for outstanding individuals who want to make a difference, gain unique experiences, and be a part of a team that delivers safety, security, and aid to those in need within the Cayman Islands and across the wider Caribbean region. To find out how to join and what the requirements are, visit www.gov.ky/CI Regiment and apply today. Application deadline is June 21st.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back. Thank you very much for joining us. It truly is an honor to have the Honorable Minister of Education, Honorable Juliana O'Connell, join us together with her Chief Officer, Mr. Tonya Cacho. And thanks again, honestly, for sharing with us the vision and the way forward as we look at education. Honorable Minister, you were referencing just prior to the break some of the initiatives. We have a couple of, questions, but we certainly want to hear more as we understand what is being planned for us.
Okay, thanks, Dwayne. I'll deal with recommendation 2 and 3 from the OES.
Yes, ma'am.
Recommendation 2, he felt that teachers' knowledge and skills should be enhanced through ongoing professional development opportunities that relate to the agreed learning platforms to be used in schools. And then recommendation 3, that the Ministry of Education should agree and resource an appropriate and manageable range of platforms to be used at different stages of education. And again, I'll ask Chief Officer to respond to that. And here on in, I'll take them by 2 to try to expedite the process.
Okay, thank you, Minister. So in addition to the 1,600 laptops or devices that were provided by KPMG, Foster's, Rotary Sunrise, and Life, we've had the laptop loan program as well from the core ministry. Like I said, that was managed by a ministry team. When we were discussing the plans for responding to the pandemic, we chose not to select just 1 or 2 platforms that everyone would have to use, because that would have meant that we would have had to provide training for all 700 plus education staff, and all of our children would then have to get used to new platforms, which would have taken an immense amount of time that we just frankly didn't have to waste. So a number of schools, or all of our schools actually, were already using platforms for online learning, and with the introduction of the new curriculum, many of those classes, subject areas, lessons were already online, and we made the decision to allow schools to continue to utilize the platforms they had in place. That way we cut down on the need for training, and children and teachers were able to hit the ground running very quickly, and that was very useful. Throughout the regular school year, normal school year, we provide training in a range of subject areas, including ICT.
And as, yeah, sorry, go ahead, Mom.
No, good. And recommendation 4, unless you had a question based on that, Dwayne?
No, Mom.
Recommendation 4, they said that in implementing a revised digital strategy, there's a need to improve wireless connectivity and bandwidth provision across the Cayman Islands to facilitate effective home learning. As a priority, all upper primary and secondary students should have regular access to appropriate designated bring your own device to support the school-based home learning. And again, I'd ask the Chief Officer to do that, but just to say that we intend to go beyond the recommendation as opposed to asking the students to bring their own device. The paper that I'm taking to caucus this evening, hopefully with safe passage from my colleagues, will go to one-to-one for each of our 5,001 students. And I've directed Ministry and DES that they will not be on loan to the students. They will go to the students, and the computer will move with that student so that they can learn to take pride in their assets, and that government will continue to nation build. Because as I've said in many different forums before, if we think that education is expensive, try ignorance. And on my watch, I'm not about to try ignorance, Chief Officer.
Thank you, Minister. As I mentioned before, we don't have control over internet access in homes, but the team in the ministry liaised with a number of internet providers on island to get access for homes that did not have any. And that took a while, but we were able to negotiate some of those services. Some were donated and some we paid a bit extra for. The other recommendation, OES 5, talks about providing information technology in all of our government schools. And I have to really kind of stop to give a shout out to the ministry team, Steve Durskin, and all of Nicholas is part of his team, and all of the technical team that work in school. Every year we have a long list of devices and support equipment for ICT for our students and for our teachers. And when we read out our budget and go to defend our budget down at the LA, I'm always provided with a huge binder by Steve and his team of all of the gadgets and educational resources, software, hardware, safety equipment that's provided for our students and our teams. And they've done an amazing job for a number of years, and they really continue to do so throughout this pandemic. During the pandemic, they were supported by Stephen Toubois as well, who is our STEM specialist, in providing a range of resources and support for schools and the community.
As I listen, I mean, we're seeing, strides on the ministry.
And then recommendation 6 and 7, if I may continue, is from the OES report, all school leaders should agree minimum expectations in terms of online, that is face-to-face, teaching at different stages of education and monitor implementation on a regular basis. And recommendation 7, officers from the Department of Education Services should assist school leaders to regularly monitor the quality of students' online learning to maximize improvement and share best practice. And I know the Chief Officer will respond, and I'm sure in her responding, she will put emphasis that the Department of Education Services did assist but I'll leave her to elucidate thereon.
Yeah, thank you, Minister. And I know a lot of these are written as recommendations, but they're actually things that we've had in place since the start of the pandemic. So I would like to just clarify that. In terms of minimum expectations, we wrote very early on continuity of education plan. And that was written in the ministry, and we partnered with the Department of Education Services, and that was sent out to all schools, public and private. And that really outlined for schools the expectations throughout the pandemic. Our first focus was on the health and safety of students, and then on the health and safety of our staff, and then on education provision. When schools closed, we recognized that for some of our most vulnerable, schools may be one of the only safe spaces that they have. They were going to lose that over the course of the pandemic. For some students, that was where they got regular meals, lots of care and attention, positive affirmations, etc. And so we didn't want there to be a disconnect for some of our most vulnerable students. And so right away, we partnered with several private sector partners again, and a number of charities to ensure that students received hot meals every day. Because we recognize for some of them, that may be the only hot meal that they received. You would know that if you're hungry, your ability to learn and focus is greatly impaired. And so that was a priority for us. We also delivered 600 meals per day. Our principals and our teachers and our counselors were just extraordinary. I mean, they left their own families at home, and they went out and they provided this service to the community. We also provided thousands of care packages because we quickly realized it wasn't just about food. There were personal items that children needed as well to help them get through this pandemic. And so that was the main focus right at the beginning. But we also, again, laid out the education provision and expectations. Again, we did not go with a digital strategy. We went with solutions that would work for every child, especially our most vulnerable children. And so that included a range of online platforms as well as paper and activity-based sessions for students. We then created a monitoring document for both private and public schools. And the monitoring document was not to be an assessment of schools. It was to ensure that we knew what was happening to children in their homes and to provide support to schools as they needed. And again, this went to public and private schools. That monitoring document we collected weekly from school, the attendance, the student engagement, the types of lessons that were occurring. We inquired about staff wellness and health, students' wellness and health, any issues that had presented themselves, and any success stories that could then be shared from school to school. That information was collected from all public schools, all private schools, every week. And the information was then reviewed by teams at the Department of Education Services, as well as teams in the ministry. Where there were issues, those were addressed very quickly and support was provided. And where there was areas of good practice, and there was so much good practice, we were then able to share those ideas with schools, and that worked really, really well.
And I think Chief Officer, also following on from that, we requested an educational response plan that is due back to the DS and the Ministry on the 26th of June. Perhaps you might just want to say a quick word about that.
Yes, and so a part of that continuity of education plan that we issued at the beginning of April, we sent out templates as well for schools because they're monitoring their students' progress every week. So they're understanding what the gaps are in learning, they're understanding what needs need to be met for the new school year, and the schools were really able to focus over the last few weeks on how they make up for this learning time lost, keeping in mind that we had covered 75% of the school year already. So in addition to that monitoring document, we issued a template to public and private schools for them to start to think about and plan for the reopening of schools in September. So they're using the data from their monitoring to plan how they make up for learning loss in September. And not just learning loss, they also have to focus on student health and well-being. Like I said, some of our students most vulnerable students have been in challenging circumstances over the last few weeks, and they would have experienced trauma. I mean, as adults going through this pandemic, we've experienced trauma. And we can't take it for granted that our students were unfazed by this. And so we're planning not just for teaching and learning, but again, health and mental wellness for when students return. Those plans are due back to the ministry, I think the 26th of June. Yeah, 26th of June, from private and public. And again, what we're looking for is in the first few weeks of school, how are you meeting students' emotional and mental health needs? What counselors are going to be provided? What services are going to be provided? We recognize that there may be an increase or change in child abuse or neglect. We want to be able to address those things right away, because if we don't, then learning won't occur. And so that stuff is being planned right now. It's due in shortly for the start of the new school year.
Okay, if I could quickly then move on to recommendation 8 and 9. OES supports its school leavers in partnership with the relevant government department to devise clear processes to monitor and track attendance during online sessions and ensure consistency and arrangements to address poor attendance in the context of home learning. It is important that the data is accurate and comprehensive in order to inform policy. And recommendation 9, at the start of the next academic year, assessment arrangements need to be put in place to ensure that teachers and school leaders have accurate and comprehensive information regarding student skills, knowledge, and gaps in learning. This information should be used to deliver appropriate school-level kept-up provisions. And Chief Officer can tell you all the work that we've been doing in this regard.
Thank you, Minister. I spoke quite extensively about the monitoring and tracking documents that we put in place. I think, and again, these are written as recommendations, but there were actually things that we had in place at the start of the pandemic. I think one of the areas I'd like to address, because there was a high number of students that were unaccounted for written in the report. And the first week that schools handed in their data, when we reviewed it, we recognized that they were reporting in different ways. So there was some misunderstanding about what we meant in terms of unaccounted for, student engagement, etc. And the senior school improvement officers at DES immediately reached out to students, to the principals, to clarify. And that data was amended. And it was really important for our principals who were working really hard not to feel as though they were being targeted, but again, just say, hi, reaching out, we need to clarify, we need this accurate data. And they immediately corrected it. And we were able to get accurate data going forward. But again, it was the first time that they were submitting this information. So we're very thankful to them. And I want to thank the DES team as well, because they really, really provided an immense amount of support to principals and teachers and the community in general throughout this time. We did include unaccounted for children because we didn't want anybody to be missed. We didn't want anyone to fall through the gap. And those numbers, I don't have them off the top of my head, were very, very small. And the truancy team at the Department of Education Services were then called into action so that we could track down these children, make sure that they were okay, understand their circumstances, and provide any support that we could. And sometimes that meant having to liaise with other agencies such as the Department of Children and Family Services or Needs Assessment Unit or counseling services to ensure that those families received the support they needed. I think it's important to mention, I know we get compared to England quite a bit, and we've been keeping track of what's been happening in England as well over this time. And, you know, they reported a 40% engagement, I believe it was, at the start of this pandemic. We have been averaging over 90% throughout. Most recently, I read a BBC article where they had done a sample of teaching provision, and it had dropped to 30% engagement. And again, we have been averaging over 90% throughout the pandemic, and I think as high as 98%. I hope that's accurate. I don't have it in front of me. Because our principals, our teachers, our senior school improvement officers, Ms. Tammy, Ms. Lynette, have been working overtime to account for every child and to ensure that education is provided as they need it, depending on their circumstances. And I know we spoke earlier, you and I, about the role of parents during this pandemic. We recognize that teachers have, again, gone above and beyond the call of duty, even given their own personal strains, personal difficult circumstances to provide services for students. But our parents and guardians have just been phenomenal. Like I said, they have not only been parents and guardians, they've had to become teachers, disciplinarians, chefs, maids, counselors, motivators. They've had to wear a number of hats while also working from home themselves. Some of them have experienced job loss and have had to deal with the emotions that come with that and the strain that comes with that, while also supporting their children. Some of them have been ill or have family members who are ill or who have even passed away during this time. And they have just been phenomenal, like I said, in partnering with us and helping to support their children. This has been difficult for everyone, and I am just blown away at the incredible strength of our community and the way persons have pulled together to ensure that learning continues and that our children are safe.
Yeah. As we go through the report, and I'll confess that I've always believed, thankfully, as I see allies in both of you as parents and as educators and as educated, and enlisted individuals, we value the importance of education, not just that teaching and learning that happens in our classrooms, not just the knowledge that we can demonstrate through examination, but the fact that we can share and inspire as we are encouraged by others. Just to clarify, as we go through this and we're looking at the teaching and learning and a new paradigm, this is for all schools, not just the public, not just the private, but the public and the private sectors, for those who maybe join us. That's what we're saying, right? This is now for everybody.
That is correct, Dwayne. As I said in the introduction, this isn't a regular report. Normally, Mr. Peter Carpenter, they will instigate reports. This time, I asked for the report because I wanted an independent response of what was happening in my schools, not as a punitive measure, but as a minister of education, a parent, a Christian who was concerned, first of all, that my teachers then would not be unduly criticized by parents or the wider public because of lack of communication or resources or cognizance. But I also wanted, from a policy perspective and from the provision of necessary resources, to find out how we were operating at one of our weakest times in the school curriculum, so that I could use that to better the lives of the students and my faculty, the team in the Ministry of DES, and the parents, which at the end of the day will come back to what I talk about all of the time, nation building, because I want an educated Caymanian community, residents and all. But like as Manla said, I have a sympathy for all who may not have an education within this Cayman jurisdiction, but my first and paramount priority is to educate my Caymanian students, and that I will do with the help and support of my team in government and ministry, and with Almighty God guidance and direction as always.
Well, as we call it, train up a child in the way he should go, and so all of these children are students, whether they're in primary school or they're finishing their first year, last year high school, whether they're in public or private schools. With that in mind, could I perhaps ask, and not necessarily for a response now, but respectful as I went through the report and as I listened, sometimes we recognize that there are students for whom the household is not the loving, nurturing, kind, supportive household that we believe should exist in all of our homes. But to that household that parents are working, they're meeting their financial obligations, but they're strapped. We've seen, despite as an example, despite the relatively lower fuel costs, we've seen electricity bills go up significantly. Excuse me, well, everybody's home now, they're burning more. Maybe true. We see the cost of food and groceries increase. Excuse me, well, it's costly to acquire now because of the demand and supply. Might be so. What I'm getting at is that we can deal with those who are at the lower socioeconomic ladder, but for that middle class or others who are struggling, this support for increase and enhance technical support, whether provision of laptops, internet, or the like, are we somehow capturing that segment, whether small or large, that may be sometimes overlooked because they don't meet the threshold? They're earning too much to be in low income, they're earning not enough to be high income, and they always being squeezed. Are we able to make sure they're not being missed inadvertently?
Well, from speaking solely with my education and the other minister responsibilities, our foremost responsibility obviously was to get it to the teachers, which we have done, and to now try to put it in place. Not try, we will put it in place, the one-to-one program for the computers. My colleague, Minister Hugh, who's responsible for commerce, I know that he has done significant work with the small businesses as well as the middle and larger businesses, and particularly the small businesses. He offered a grant and there's a loan facility. My colleague, the Deputy Premier, has also done similar in tourism. But I think you hit a very good point. I think once this perhaps has, and the Premier will be making some very significant announcements at the 2 o'clock press briefing, him and the Minister of Health and the Governor, as to the next stage that we're taking the country. But somewhere between now and December, as Mal heard could say, if we can make it through December, every little thing is going to be all right. I think we actually need to zone in as to how we can better equip all of the various social and economic strata within the Caymanian jurisdiction to ensure that we won't be left behind as we become the new norm. We have been propelled, albeit reluctantly, some of us who are over 55, into the IT world. I think it would be an awesome investment into our human capital if a segregated line item would be designated to allow those persons who do not have computers to get computers, however that program coming out, but that's a general policy. But I also think that a conversation, and if I may step out of my comfort zone, needs to be held with OFREG and our IT providers. And I've had an opportunity during summer to get employment at the time of what used to be Care Wireless, and I know that they're always willing, and Logic as well, and Digicel, Wayne, and the rest of those gentlemen there, they have an interest in Cayman. They're not going anyway. You know, this is their domicile, not of choice only, but domicile of origin. And I believe this is a good opportunity for a Caymanian longevity, whatever you want to call it, creation to wealth or sustainability from an educational perspective or economic perspective, that we can truly invest in our people, because we have ICCI and certainly we have our own UCCI that is fighting at the tip to be able to retool our society. We saw where just overnight, practically, we've lost tourism, and I have no doubt that my colleague, Moses Colonel, will build that back because that's what he does best. But in the interim, I believe this is a wonderful opportunity to look at what we've been doing as a country, those things that were good, keep them and enhance them and improve upon them. Those things that were not beneficial to our Caymanian people, our residents, then we need to have a relook and have File 13 close by that relooking there.
Well, respectfully, Madam Minister, Ms. Cacho, let us just pause quickly, take a short break. When we come back, we'll continue our discussion. Please stay tuned for Talk Today.
Green Turtle, modern solutions to get you through the new normal. Download the Green Turtle app now and top up yours or a loved one's phone with any mobile carrier in any destination. Home delivery of laptops, tablets, phones, accessories, and iTunes and major online retailer gift cards. And now, home deliveries of groceries and courier service. Guaranteed delivery within 2 hours from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Visit their list of products at greenturtle.ky or download the Green Turtle app today. Green Turtle is not only the future of mobile, but today it can help save a life. Take a ride on the Green Turtle Express today. Download the Green Turtle app, the future of mobile, saving lives today.
We are here for you. Whether you are in extreme financial need, have lost your job, have been directly or indirectly affected by the pandemic, we are here. The Chamber of Commerce Pension Plan is here to assist through the Cayman Islands Government Emergency Withdrawal Program. To withdraw, visit chamberpension.ky and complete the online application form by filling in your personal details, the amount you wish to withdraw, and upload a notarized government ID such as your passport or driver's license. For information as it happens, visit chamberpension.ky. admin.ky or follow our social media pages on Facebook, LinkedIn, or Instagram. Email admin@pensions.ky or call 745-7630. We thank you for your patience as we address the high volume of email and phone queries. The Chamber of Commerce Pension Plan. You can count on us.
Headlines.
With the latest headlines.
One of Cayman's bright and shining young stars.
Local, regional, international.
Turning to international news.
Updates on the hour between 7 a.m. and 6 p.m. on weekdays. All the news when you want it. Tune in to Radio Cayman for hourly headlines of the day's top stories.
Radio Cayman, your voice, your choice, your radio.
Taking your medication when prescribed is important to your health, and your health matters to us. The Health Services Authority's pharmacy has locations across the islands, including a new convenient prescription refill location at Smith Road Center for persons with full insurance coverage. HSA has taken additional safety measures to keep you protected during this extraordinary time, with frequent sanitizing, priority for the elderly and pregnant, additional seating for social distancing, and face mask requirements. If you have questions about your medication, contact one of our pharmacists at 949-8600. For more information about our pharmacy hours and locations, visit hsa.ky.
Vant Motors and RBC Royal Bank are making it easy for you to buy your new car or truck. The spring into summer sale at Vant Motors is going on now with no money down and no monthly payments for up to 12 months on select models only. That's no monthly payments for up to 12 months or until June 2021 on select models only. Offer ends June 30th. Find out how you can drive home the best deal of the year and call VAMPT at 949-8288 or email sales@vamptmotors.com.
Fidelity Bank would like to thank all essential workers. We salute your efforts and thank you for the sacrifices you've made to keep us all safe. During these challenging times we're facing, our top priority is the health and safety of the communities we serve. And while it's true that things are changing rapidly every day, one thing that will never change is our commitment to giving you the best and sound financial solutions to help you during and after the coronavirus pandemic. At Fidelity Bank, our focus will always be you. Fidelity, we're good for you.
At Seaboard Marine, customers often ask us questions about their shipments.
Hi, I'm thinking of buying a car from the States. Which port do you ship out of?
Hi, we ship out of Miami, Houston, and Brooklyn. Just let us know your port of choice and we can provide you with a quotation and answer any questions you may have on insuring and protecting your vehicle during its journey.
Shipping shore to shore, Seaboard.
Wow, looks good. What is that?
Chicken share.
What did you just say to me?
Chicken share.
I am not a chicken.
Whoa! I said chicken share. It's from KFC. Bucket of 12 hot wings, 6 pieces of chicken, or 8 tenders. KFC chicken share. Just $12 each.
Oh.
Want some chicken, tenders, or hot wings?
You're sharing your chicken share with me?
The new chicken share from KFC. Just $12 each. And it's finger-licking good. Dine at KFC Baytown Plaza, KFC Shedden Road, or KFC at the Strand.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waging to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back. Thank you so much for joining us. And it's very, very, for us, a distinct pleasure to have the Honorable Education Minister together with the Chief Officer joining us. Again, Ms. Julia, thanks very much, ma'am, for sharing as we're going through the report and the comments that you helping us to understand better.
You're most welcome, Dwayne. The next recommendation, I believe, was recommendation 10.
10?
The Ministry of Education should provide a clear lead and direction to schools in order to devise coherent catch-up plans for 2020-21 and 2021-22. The plans need to include suitable adaptations to ensure students' health and safety in the school environment when they return to school. Arrangements should be informed by best practice, noticed in an international context, in those countries where students have already returned to school after lockdown. Strategies to address gaps in learning may include, for example, lengthening of the school day for certain ages of students, providing catch-up sessions, additional examination classes or summer school, lengthening the next 2 academic years if possible may be a necessary consideration. And recommendation 11, cross-agency, multidisciplinary partnership should be strengthened. Relevant student information needs to be quickly accessible to appropriate professionals to help address the welfare and needs of students in any given emergency situation. And I leave it there, and then when she finishes, Chief Officer will go to the last recommendation, 12. But I would encourage the Chief Officer to convey that we have concluded the back-to-school recovery program, and we're hoping to get that published, as I indicated in my introduction, either by the end of this week, early next week. And I should also say that I did play Dwayne devil's advocate with my team and suggested why not repeat from nursery to primary 5, and gave all of the reasons why. And they have very ably persuaded me that we best not do that, but do almost a halfway house where we would use the first few weeks to revise and catch up and then move on. But we have a very detailed and excited plan that we're putting out in a very user-friendly format, and I'd ask the Chief Officer to make sure she mentions that as she responds to recommendation 10 and 11.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Minister. Like I said, this is written as a recommendation, but it's actually something we had in place since April, and that was the template and guidance documents that went out to both public and private schools, outlining the steps that would need to be followed for catch-up plans for the next 2 years. Like I said previously, the health and mental wellness of our students and staff has always been of critical importance to us and a focus, and that will not change for the new school year. That will continue to be a focus. We have a committee of counselors and educational psychologists working on health and well-being plans for the start of the new school year. We also have a partnership with the Red Cross on their mobile health and well-being initiative that will be launched in July and August to support families even before they come back to school. In our plans that were issued in April, we outlined a need to focus on the curriculum, and that included consideration for focusing on the core subject areas of math, English, and science, and as well as extending the lesson times for those subject areas. It's important to recognize, like I said earlier, that our students would have covered 75%, about 75% of their curriculum when schools closed. They continue to learn at variable levels while schools were closed, so the gap is not immense and immeasurable. And like I said, we've had a 90% plus engagement rate throughout the pandemic. And so schools will focus on first health and wellness, but they will also adapt the curriculum and also extracurricular activities to be able to prioritize the key areas of English, math, and science. We have left some flexibility for principals as well to determine how they restructure their curriculum and the length of that time, because principals have really been engaging with their teachers, with their students, with their families, and have a really good grasp on the needs for each of their individual schools. Like we said, those plans are due back on the 26th of June from both private and public schools. In addition to the continuity of education plan that was issued in April, we also put together guidance on distance learning. And this was research-based guidance for schools, both public and private, to utilize in terms of meeting students' educational needs. Again, with the pandemic, there might be a need or a want to kind of rely on a number of things and kind of fly by your pants and do what feels right. But we didn't want schools to ever lose the fact that our work needed to be research-based. The services that we were providing, the education that we were providing to children had to be based on strategies that were researched, best practice, and proven effective, because we did not want to waste time during this pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
And so that guidance was issued to all schools as well. In addition, I said before, with terms of cross-agency and multidisciplinary partnerships, this is written as a recommendation, but it's something that we have been doing since the start of the pandemic, and we're really, really proud of our community partners. Like I said, we've had so many government agencies support education. We've been able to support government agencies. You would know that, like, NAU has been overwhelmed almost with the amount of support that they need to provide to the public. And so schools have stepped up to help NAU in terms of providing services to our students. And our counselors and our educational psychologists and our specialist staff have really helped with closing those gaps. And again, these are persons that are leaving their own families at home to make sure that our children throughout the community have the services they need throughout the pandemic. So we are incredibly grateful to them. We've not only liaised with government agencies, but a number of private sector partners. We mentioned earlier KPMG, Foster's, Rotary Sunrise, and Life, but we also have liaised with a number of charities, especially when it comes to our meal provision program. And like I said, we've been delivering over 600 meals a day to children from the start of the pandemic, as well as thousands and thousands of care packages to families. And I think we can't lose sight ever that education is being provided in a pandemic, and we have to be sensitive to what's happening in persons' homes as we respond to their education needs. I can tell you, I've had a parent call me, a mom, a single mom, and we know that single parents go above and beyond just on a regular day, you know, and now during the pandemic, they have just been incredible. But I've had a mom say to me, I'm in my closet, I'm hiding from my children, I'm exhausted, and I don't know what to do. And we've had to say, it's okay. You're doing an incredible job. Take a break for the day. Speak to your principal. Explain your circumstances. And so it's making sure that we're responded to the entire need of the student and to their families, and we're sensitive to that in planning the way forward.
You know, as we're looking at it and recognizing to our listeners that the briefing is at 2 p.m., Honourable Minister, certainly the invitation is always there for you, new ministry, to come on and share with us, in particular about education, but any other topics. So we just want to listen, and to our listeners in particular, recognizing that sometimes best to get the information, then be able to digest it and engage in discourse thereafter. As you were sharing with us, Honourable Minister, anything else you care to relate?
And I just want to commit my staff without consultation. They'll forgive me, I'm sure, that if we don't finish today, because we're spending quite a bit of time on the OES report, which I think is important, not just for us, but for the public to hear and hear both sides and where we're going with it. If needs be, and if there's an opportunity for the same time next week, I'll be happy to come on to continue the other topics that we perhaps may not get time to deal with today, and could field questions at that time if time permits.
Yes, ma'am. Well, we will certainly be more than grateful for that opportunity, and we can make it happen, I'm sure.
All right, thank you. Recommendation 12, the final recommendations on the OES report. Appropriate modifications to existing school premises are required in advance of students' return to school to ensure the health and safety of students, staff, and parents. Considerations such as the provision of multiple hand sanitizing stations and signage to reinforce adequate social distances protocols need to be agreed across all government schools, and I should say private schools as well. And I want to say right here also that not only did I ask for an inspection report for my government or public schools, but I have also asked for my private schools. That's ongoing, and I hope to be in receipt of that report, hopefully by the close of this month. Heighten regard for supervision at break and lunchtime, when children would naturally congregate, will be needed. Additionally, innovative timetabling solutions may be necessary at an individual school level to minimize social interactions that could put students and staff at risk. And again, I'm happy for the Chief Officer to share with you that promised document that we finalized that will deal with the recovery plans. We've gone through all of this to very great detail, including talking about, should lunch be delivered to the classrooms, and it's an extreme detail. So I believe the public would, for the most part, because you can't please everybody, even though we try to, would be very pleased to see that there is good, clear guidance that are coming out in a user-friendly format. Like I said, by the end of this week or early next week, once we get it properly published and everything, that people will know as far as you can know in the uncertain, uncharted waters of COVID-19, and hoping we don't get a hurricane or anything else. Those are our plans. But we do have plans for earthquakes now, fire, anything. Anything. We're ready for it, Dwayne. By the help of God, there is
God's with
nothing
us, Mom.
we cannot accomplish with the public being understanding, being cooperative, assistant, and they have, and I'm grateful. They're always a loud minority, but I'm also grateful for them because it keeps me on my toes and it keeps me on my knees in prayer.
And
Thank you, Minister. Yeah. So we have this guidance drafted for the reopening of schools as well as early childhood care and education centers. And as the Minister said, it's very detailed information that will set out the requirements for all schools and early childhood centers for reopening at the end of August, at the beginning of September. The document will be issued this week, we're hoping, and it will include requirements for physical distancing, safety protocols, enhanced cleaning and sanitizing protocols, shifts for lunch, for playtime, including enhanced wiping down and disinfecting of play equipment, non-sharing of resources. There will be adjusted pick-up and drop-off protocols so that we don't have large crowds of students coming in or leaving school at the same time, and there'll be protocols for buses. We've also had the team at DES have put together a checklist for schools, which breaks that guidance down in an easy to understand format. And as well, they've also created a risk register for schools so that they can determine any levels of risk that need to be mitigated before students come back. And like we said, the health and safety of our students is an absolute priority. So we'll be issuing that guidance soon, along with the checklist, to schools and to the public. We realize as well that we've given quite a lot of information today. We have even more to give, as the Minister indicated. So we will be issuing an FAQ, frequently asked questions, question and answer document, either this evening or tomorrow as well, for the public to be able to recap and get their questions answered. Again, I'd just like to say the team in the ministry, led by Ms. Lynette Monteith, the team in the Department of Education Services, led by Ms. Tammy Hopkins, our school leaders, our teachers, our parents, our guardians, our community partners, other government agencies, our minister, other ministers have just been incredible in terms of the level of support that they have provided to the community throughout this pandemic. And I'm very, very grateful to have such an amazing team.
Right. If we may ask, and again to our listeners, we do recognize not just time constraints for the briefing coming up shortly, but I thought it was important to be able to provide the Honourable Minister the opportunity to go through the report as the Honourable Minister offered. We'll have another session and continue to go through giving the importance of education. So we respectfully, on behalf of all, extend an apology for not just taking calls just yet or getting to some of the WhatsApps as well. If I may then ask just two things initially. With respect to the report and the new protocols that may come into play in our schools, both for the early childhood, the primary and secondary schools, we know that part of education is not just the teaching and learning, but the social engagement and interaction. With respect to the physical and social distancing that we may be expected now to employ, are there any concerns, not just for the safety or the compliance, but the potential impact that could have on the social and mental well-being for the students as they are no longer able to physically interact?
Thank you for the question. Sorry, Minister, would you like to go? Sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to say that at the press conference this evening, the Premier will lay out a number of things that we ought to listen to. That will answer, Dwayne, some of what your question is asking about as the different stages, because we're not just concerned, although we are concerned about, the safety of everybody, especially the elderly and the children has been at the front burner. I mean, there have been times that we have been able to say every single thing because COVID thing, it was not something that you could read and study. It was an ongoing thing, and I want to compliment our Honourable Premier and the entire team, the Governor, Deputy Governor, AG, everybody, Sam Rose, everybody really came in, and good thing we don't get overtime as such, because the hours that we've worked to ensure that this country we love so dear. I mean, we have nowhere else to go, that our people were safe. When we were first presented with the figures, it was like in the thousands that there was based on the modeling of where people could die. And I think that just propels us into one reality, that come hell or high water, our God have taken us through many, many Red Seas before, and this is one that we called on our church, the same God that established us upon the seas. We called on our churches and our prayer warriors, and they prayed. Unless history does not record it for whatever politically good reasons or not good reasons, let it be known that this minister says that yes, the science has led to it, all of the hard work, but I am an avid believer that our churches and our Christians came together and are still, even our church as we speak, is into a period of praying and fasting. And Jesus said some things would not be conquered. Sorry, I'm getting ready to preach now. Unless it was done through prayer and fasting. And like Paul of old said, I am not ashamed. I am not ashamed. And I praise God today, publicly and privately, that we still live in an island, small though we are, little rocks in the sea to some, unimportant to many, but still one of the best places that God created. And I believe that it is no mistake that people are scratching their heads and wondering that even though we have positives, our people are not dying and they're not any symptoms. And I hope, and I'm cautiously optimistic, that a study would be done to see what the Caymanian scenario is, because it is like none other. The positives are few, but praise God, even when we get the positives, they are asymptomatic. Well, from a Christian perspective, I would say they're miraculous.
Yes, Mom. Nothing wrong with preaching.
Chief Officer, sorry.
Ms. Cacho?
Yes, thank you. No, you had asked the question about the social distancing and the effect that it's had on children. And I think schools have done a really good job over this time to ensure that students are also having fun activities online. You would have seen that they're continuing with their school leaving and graduation ceremonies, and those are being broadcast on GIS as well. They've had drive-through certificate and award programs where parents can drive through with their children, and teachers are celebrating with them on the sidelines of the school so that they can collect their awards. And so a great effort has gone into making sure that students have social interactions and have a bit of fun. John Gray High School did their award ceremony, and so did Clifton Hunter, all online. And they, drove around in a bus saying hi to students and bringing well wishes. And so when we return to school, again, they're in their planning phase now. Schools are looking at ways for students to have really positive social interactions where they don't actually need to touch each other, because we're aware that we want to get them back to that sense of normal, that sense of continuing growth. But I appreciate you bringing that question to mind, because, again, it's not just about the education. It is about the health and mental well-being of our students and our staff.
Okay. Now, we are cognizant of the time, and we're honored that the Honorable Minister would, offer up next week. So we'll try our endeavor best to make that happen. Perhaps if we could respectfully, given that the press briefing is coming up shortly, I know you have other things, could we just maybe ask one final question? We were focusing on, the primary and the secondary, the early years, primary and secondary students. Respectfully, if not now, maybe next week, the students who are in universities overseas and they're returning, what considerations, if any, for them, not just their funding, but support and the like. And in particular, we know some of the universities themselves are still working on plans as to how they're going to deliver their teaching and learning, will it be online? The primary question that we receive from many of our listeners is simply, if the student is going to be learning via an online portal and is unable to ill-advised to return to the university there, but will be here. Will funding and education scholarships and the support as ordinarily, if they were there, still be available even if they're physically present in Cayman?
Oh, yes, Dream. I've already thought about that and, in fact, taken a paper to Cabinet and got approval for temporary relaxation of scholarship requirements for COVID-19. And you almost read my mind because I was going to suggest that perhaps if we dealt with that next week, because it's a number of scenarios that we needed to lend a helping hand to our students, going all the way back to the last semester in 2019, to allow students not to be victims of circumstances beyond their control. I got the full support of my colleagues in Cabinet and the team, and perhaps if we can start off on that topic next week, and I could also have Shari from the Secretariat and perhaps Chairman Mark Scotland assist my Chief Officer when we deal with that next week, because there are some exciting things that we've already done preparing. There's still some challenges. For example, first-time students or renewal students who may need U.S. visas. We know that borders are closed down. Cayman Islands government has been endeavoring to get contact and make contact with some positive outcomes, pardon upon positive, with the Jamaica embassy. That has not progressed as expeditious as one would have hoped to. And as recent as yesterday in Cabinet, I again implored His Excellency to see perhaps if he could reach out from UK to US Washington office to see whether they would allow our students, for example, to go to Nassau if we couldn't get a representative from the U.S. Embassy to come to Cayman so that we can facilitate our students. But there's lots of good news for the students if they would have some delayed gratification until next Wednesday, shall I say, then we'll get the full details of what we've put in place for them.
Well, thank you very much for that. And we will reach out to the Honorable, Minister will reach out to your Chief Officer with some other potential dates as well, just in case Wednesday isn't the best one. We're now looking at a calendar, so I was multitasking. See, civil servants can do many things at one time. But,
once it's not on caucus or cabinet day, I can rearrange my calendar.
Okay, well, forgive me, Ms. Cacho, for publicly saying, let me call you and maybe we can verbally look at the calendars together. Would that be better? And we can just work it straight there. All right, well, see, I have homework to do. Miss Norma would be actually say, see that, boy, my team can actually do their work independently without having to be directed.
And I would say, behold how good it is for Caymanians to continue to work together.
Amen, amen. Well, thank you both very much. And with respect, perhaps first, Ms. Cacho, is there anything sort of quick closing thoughts you may want to leave, and then again, Honorable Minister, if you wish as well?
Just to quickly again say thank you to our teams in the ministry, the department, schools, our parents, our government partners, our private partners, such as Feed Our Future, Kiwanis, and a number of other individuals who have supported education throughout this difficult time.
All right, thanks. And Honorable Minister, any final thoughts if you wish?
In the interest of time and brevity, just to say that I associate with all of the comments that my very able and capable Chief Officer has just expounded, and to thank Radio Cayman once again for always offering this medium and facilitating the ministry, no matter what time, the hour, what the subject, and being such gracious hosts. We will forever be indebted to you for offering this medium, so that not just Grand Cayman can hear, but in fact, my people on the back in Little Cayman as well can know what's happening during this time.
Well, it is truly an honor, and we thank you for always being gracious with your time, you and your entire team, for accepting the invite, for helping us to, work with the schedule. So we're looking forward now to the briefing and to our discussion next week. So thank you both. Enjoy your rest of the week, and may it be a safe, productive, and very pleasant one as well.
Yes, thank you. And just to encourage everybody to please listen. I know you listen to the briefing, but in particular today, our Honorable Premier, Honorable Alden McLaughlin, has some very exciting news for the country. So please tune in. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joe. And thank you, Ms. Cacho. To our listeners, let's pause quickly, take the break, go to the news, and we'll fill it in until the break begins. So stay tuned.
Community radio with a different appeal. The voice of the people. Security through adversity. Stuck on you. Radio for all time.
You're listening to Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
Your 2 p.m. headlines brought to you by greenturtle.ky. Take a ride on the Green Turtle Express today. Download the Green Turtle app, the future of mobile. Saving lives today.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman. It's only 2 species that we have, on the island.
Generations present.
Your voice, your choice.
It is in the best interest of the people of these islands.
Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
With your latest headlines, I'm Felicia Reichert-Solins. 6 positives for COVID-19 and close to 1,000 tests conducted Friday through Monday. As of 5 p.m. yesterday, the islands have 193 confirmed cases to date, with 123 recoveries. More than 18,000 people have been tested, and there are 2 symptomatic people, 1 person in the hospital, and 67 asymptomatic people. Another update is expected later today at the government briefing. In international news, Quaker Oats is retiring the more than 130-year-old Aunt Jemima brand and logo, acknowledging its origins are based on a racial stereotype. The brand's origin and logo is based off the song Old Aunt Jemima from a minstrel show performer and reportedly sung by slaves. After a nationwide reckoning on race following the death of George Floyd in police custody, some companies are making changes. Honduran President Juan Orlando Hernandez says he has tested positive for coronavirus. The president added that he had mild symptoms and was receiving treatment. He is the first president in Latin America to have tested positive for the virus. Ghana has a message for African Americans in the wake of George Floyd's death. Africa is your home. Officials in Ghana's capital, Accra, are inviting Americans to live and invest in the West African nation. Those are your latest headlines. I'm Felicia Rankin-Solins.
Your 2 p.m. headlines brought to you by greenturtle.ky. Take a ride on the Green Turtle Express today. Download the Green Turtle app, the future of mobile. Saving lives today.
Green Turtle. Modern solutions to get you through the new normal. Download the Green Turtle app now and top up yours or a loved one's phone with any mobile carrier in any destination. Home delivery of laptops, tablets, phones, accessories, and iTunes and major online retailer gift cards. And now, home deliveries of groceries and courier service. Guaranteed delivery within 2 hours from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Visit their list of products at greenturtle.ky or download the Green Turtle app today. Green Turtle is not only the future of mobile, but today it can help save a life. Take a ride on the Green Turtle Express today. Download the Green Turtle app, the future of mobile, saving lives today.
For the latest in news and information,
Follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, radiocayman.gov.ky.
your voice, your choice, your radio.
This Father's Day, more than ever, Celebrations wants to deliver an extra special thank you and show appreciation and love to the other unsung hero, Dad. Celebrate your favorite bud with a great gift basket filled with special treats such as fruits, gourmet goodies, beverages of choice, all uniquely designed for him. With every order this Father's Day, Celebrations will be donating part proceeds to local charity, Feed Our Future, and helping to support families. Celebrations will be doing island-wide, safe, non-contact delivery from this Thursday, June 18th until Sunday, June 21st. Call us on 623-2044 or place your order online at www.celebrationsgifts.com. Happy Father's Day from Celebrations.
Even in this time of uncertainty, time of challenge, we adapt to change, making good on opportunity, clearing a path of continuity. Our children, our students, seek to further learning confined at home. Our teachers reach out and teach, furthering scholarship, their classrooms scattered far and wide, using technology, bridging distance. That's why Rotary Central joined the AlphaSoft initiative, sponsoring a first batch of 297 of the 600 laptops needed for students in need, students who would be absent from school without a laptop. $7,000 dedicated to the purchase of laptops benefiting children at John Gray High, children at Sir John A. Cumber Primary in West Bay, Rotary Central, and the AlphaSoft initiative, taking care of children who want to learn. Our children, their future, more secure. Rotary, connecting the world.
Green Turtle, modern solutions to get you through the new normal. Download the Green Turtle app now and top up yours or a loved one's phone with any mobile carrier in any destination. Home delivery of laptops, tablets, phones, accessories, and iTunes and major online retailer gift cards. And now, home deliveries of groceries and courier service. Guaranteed delivery within 2 hours from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Visit their list of products at greenturtle.ky or download the Green Turtle app today. Green Turtle is not only the future of mobile, but today it can help save a life. Take a ride on the Green Turtle Express today. Download the Green Turtle app, the future of mobile, saving lives today.
The Wharf restaurant is back open to the public. After donating over 20,000 meals during the lockdown, we are energized and proud to have been able to help. Book your waterfront reservations today and enjoy live music while watching the sunset on our spacious and breezy terrace. The Wharf has fresh fish and fresh local produce options every day, as well as an extensive wine list. We are family and kid-friendly with a kids menu and tarpon feeding every night. We are looking forward to welcoming you back. Call 949-2231 to book your table today at The Wharf.
We all know there's nothing more refreshing than the taste of an ice-cold Coca-Cola straight from the cooler.
No one can stop me when I taste the feeling.
Whether we're celebrating a birthday, promotion, or just a great meal, make each moment a Coca-Cola moment.
No one can stop me when I taste the feeling.
Available across the Cayman Islands from Tortuga Distributors. Make sure you ask for the unforgettable flavor of a classic Coca-Cola.
Home, which should be a haven, can even be less of a safe space during curfew if someone is experiencing child abuse. If you or anyone you know is being abused, help is nearby. For emergencies, call 911. They will redirect your call to the relevant agencies. For general guidelines and inquiries, call the Multi-Agency Safeguarding Hub, MASH, at 1-800-534-2273 or 945-0545. Alternatively, email mash@gov.ky.
As the community continues to take precautions from COVID-19, it is important to stay prepared for other disasters now that we're in the hurricane season. Here are some post-hurricane safety tips from the Department of Environmental Health. Cistern water designated for the purposes of drinking, cooking, and bathing must be disinfected before use after a hurricane. Simply leave the water for 1 minute after it begins to boil, or to disinfect with bleach, add 3 ounces of chlorine bleach to every 1,000 gallons of water. A residual bleach smell is an indicator that the water has been properly disinfected. For full guidance on post-hurricane safety tips, visit www.deh.gov.ky.
Talk today.
But I do have some questions.
Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back. Thank you very much for joining us. And as we await the political briefing to start, the Honorable Education Minister reminds us that the Honorable Premier will have a number of important and new things to share with us as we enter this next phase, level, process, so wherever we are with this thing. And hopefully, remembering that we work together to make it better find a way to build consensus to improve who we are and what we would like to see, as long as it's the best that we can attain, and hopefully show a great sense of appreciation for what we've so far been able to experience. As bad as it is, thank God it's no worse. Let's be in prayer for those around us across the globe, not only as they mourn the lost loved ones, but equally, for their continued provision and protection as we pray for our very own. For leaders who have a conscience, a semblance of humanity, ethics, and integrity, who are not guided by greed and graft, but are in fact, seeking wisdom and counsel from on high as to how best to do it, so that they're not just looking at a statute or some sort of knighthood or other symbol to sort of, how they're recorded in history as this, that, or the other thing, but simply and most importantly, for where they ever after will be. Well, take issue with it if you want. Call and berate if you choose, or maybe call and actually be productive. 949-8037 or 1-800-534-8255. Quick caveat, we are waiting for the briefing to start, and when it does, if you are chatting with us, we ask you, please forgive us if we cut you as we go to the briefing. Even if it's me that is talking, it's going to be interrupted because we want to ensure that you are able to hear the briefing without missing anything. It's important, I think, as we've always shared here, for our populace to be engaged, involved, and informed, to be able to speak constructively, accurately, and timely to the issues at hand. And to do that, we've got to be willing, to make ourselves available. To do so, I think, in a way that helps us to appreciate as we go forward. It is incumbent on all of us to do our very best. Respectfully, as we reflect on the last conversation with the Honorable Education Minister, there are probably a lot of things that we're experiencing just in the school environments in which we find ourselves, whether we're volunteering through some agency or on our own, whether it's because there are children or loved ones or people for whom we have taken a particular interest, maybe the schools that they attend, and we are perhaps a little bit more knowledgeable, aware, cognizant of what is happening in those schools. It may be just that particular classroom or grade. It may be just particular section of that school. The question is, are we offering ourselves in a very loving, nurturing, supportive way, even as we critique what is transpiring? Are we doing so in a way to offer up a very meaningful solution? That is the press briefing that is about to start. So let's go to it. We invite you to stay tuned and listen and be informed.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's press briefing on the coronavirus. I'm Donna Bush. I'm so glad you could join us via our channels as well as listening on Radio Cayman. We go to Reverend Ed Tatum for today's prayer.
Let us pray. Dear Father, thank you so much for how you've helped us in these challenging times. Thank you for the leadership we have. Thank you for the courageous job that our Premier has done. Thank you for the people who work with him. And we pray, Lord, that you would bless them in a very special way and give them your wisdom in your direction and protection. We pray that you would bless the doctors and nurses and help them to do what's best for the ones who are suffering. We pray for the less fortunate ones, the ones who are sick today. Do touch them and help them. Their future, they'll be well again. We pray that somehow, in the near future, we'll find a cure for this problem and we'll be able to rejoice and thank you for a great job that you've done in remembering and helping and blessing us. For we pray these things in the holy and lovely name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. And thank you, Reverend Tatum. We now welcome our esteemed panelists, His Excellency the Governor, the Honorable Premier, as well as the Honorable Minister for Health. With us in studio are the Chief Medical Officer, the Director of HMCI, and our sign language interpreter. Joining us via Zoom are members of the media, as well as the Medical Officer of Health, Dr. Samuel Williams Rodriguez. We go first to Dr. Lee.
Good afternoon. There are 385 results to report today, 233 from the Doctors Hospital and 153 from the Health Services Authority. They're all negative. It's great to report that for a change today. That brings our total positive unchanged at 193, and including 3 from Cayman Brac, where they have now completed their screening program and have screened 51% of their population. That screening program, the general screening program, is now finished, and they won't be accepting any more participants to that. They will continue to screen their frontline workers as is being done across all the islands. The number of symptomatic people is still at 2, number of asymptomatic at 58, 1 person remains admitted and is stable, and 132 people have recovered. There are 145 people in government facilities, isolation facilities, and 253 are isolated at home. There are 7 patients seen in the flu clinic on the previous 24-hour period, and 3 flu-related calls to the hotline, although they received a total of 11 calls. It's great to see in the news that there is a new drug that is proving to be very effective in the treatment of people with severe COVID disease, and it's a very cheap and widely available drug called dexamethasone, which is a steroid drug. It's been shown to reduce deaths by up to 1/3 and has already received emergency approval for use in the United Kingdom, and no doubt will get that approval elsewhere as well. So something to take note of, we've seen that although New Zealand has been doing very well in terms of managing COVID disease in its shores, 2 people were released early from an isolation facility on compassionate grounds in order that they could go and see a relative and drive 400 miles from Auckland to Wellington. Unfortunately, they met up with friends along the way and then stayed with friends at the other end, but have now been discovered to have had COVID. And so therefore, they are contact tracing 320 close contacts of those 2 people due to their contacts both on the plane, in the isolation hotel where they were, and the people that they met. Additionally, although China felt that it had recovered from the COVID, and we all hoped that they were through to the other side, we all now seeing in the news, there is an outbreak in Beijing, which is now under lockdown. Hundreds of flights have been cancelled to the capital city, and schools have been suspended, amongst other measures which have had to be reintroduced. So there is no question that COVID-19 is here to stay and will emerge should it be given the chance to do so. Thank you, Donna.
Thank you very much, Dr. Lee. We're going to go first to the Caymanian Times. Ralph Lewis, standing by.
Yes. Good afternoon, Dr. Lee, and thanks for your good report, and hope you had a great weekend. 2 brief questions. The first one regards medical specialists. There are some patients on the island that may need specific medical treatment from off-island specialists. Are they allowed to return to the island? What suggestions can you give to those patients?
Many of the people who are current patients of medical specialists overseas are actually being followed up through telemedicine. Those that need to make a physical appearance are going for their appointments, and of course, in particular, that group includes a lot of people who need urgent and complex treatment, frequently related to cancer, that are going abroad and receiving that treatment and then coming back to Cayman. Some were also receiving treatment abroad at the start of when the lockdowns happened around the world, and they actually very sensibly chose to stay where they were in order that they could complete their treatment program. I've also been suggesting to people who go to the States for treatment, particularly if they've had surgery, to please consider a more extended recovery period. change when we go to a level 2 lockdown, which is imminent, and I understand the Premier will be announcing more today. And following on from his announcement, it is likely that Health Practice Commission, because I've seen a draft, the Health Practice Commission will release a statement to recommend that clinics go back to normal operations and hospitals as well, bearing in mind, of course, we have two threats to face, so that particularly relates to the hospitals, that they need to think about being able to release capacity fairly swiftly should we have an outbreak of COVID disease or should we have a hurricane.
Okay, thank you very much. Donald, that's it for Dr. Lee.
Okay, thank you, Ralph. We go now to the Cayman Compass. Reshma is standing by. Reshma?
Thank you, Donna. Good afternoon, Dr. Lee. I'm glad you touched on the anti-inflammatory drug. Can you say if this drug is available locally and it's being considered for part of the COVID-19 treatment regimen?
Yes and yes.
Okay, quick answers. I just wanted to get an update
Reshma, it's a really widely available drug. So, I mean, there should be, I'm doubting there's going to be any supply issues. And also, I would imagine that suppliers can ramp it up quite quickly because it's used for a number of different conditions. So I would imagine that that there shouldn't be a supply issue after initial slowdown, but then I think there shouldn't be a supply issue.
Okay, great. Thank you. Now, the drug hydroxychloroquine was found to, well, the FDA withdrew its approval for its use mainly because of the side effects that drug carried with it. Are there any side effects that patients should be concerned about with regards to this particular drug?
It's a steroid. All steroids have side effects. The longer you take steroids, the more likely you are to suffer with side effects with them. But because it's been around, steroids have been around, I would think, I would hazard a guess, coming up to 100 years. We know them very well. It's not like we don't know them. They're well defined. And once you stop the drug, that the side effects will withdraw. So I'm not anticipating there would be a long-term issue.
Okay, great. Can you provide us with an update on the antibody testing at the HSA? Has that started, and how many tests, if it has started, how many tests have been done so far?
I'm not 100% sure. Dr. Williams may be able to provide the answer. I certainly know that they're planning to start both at Health City and at the HSA this week. Whether they actually have done, I'm not 100% sure. We're not planning to give those reports on a daily basis, so if you ask me for them, we'll probably only plan to give them to you once a week, and I will. So I'm just giving you a forewarning about that. I think I'm not sure if Dr. Williams is on the line, able to answer whether it's actually started.
Let me ask him. Dr. Sam, are you able to answer Reshma's question for her?
Yes. Yes. Good afternoon. Yeah, the HSA has not started yet to test the IgG testing. We are the validation process. We are finalizing that right now. We are planning to start later this week, probably either tomorrow or Friday or early next week for sure.
Okay, great. Thank you, Dr. Sam, for that update. You touched on Health City. That was my follow-up question. I was going to ask when would they be able to get the go-ahead from government, but you've already answered that. So
they have had the go-ahead from government.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, that's it from me.
Okay.
Thanks, Dr.
Thank you, Reshma. We're going to go now to Wendy at CNS. Wendy, please go ahead.
Thank you, Donna. Doctor, just a quick question. Firstly, the patient that's in hospital and you're describing as stable, is that patient on a ventilator or needing oxygen?
No, the patient is self-ambulating around the room.
Okay. So they're doing good.
Yeah, as far as I'm aware,
okay.
they're stable and not needing much assistance apart from obviously medication and being observed.
Okay, cool. I just wanted to check that. My main question really relates to some of the findings in the education report that came out last week, and what the inspectors have spoken about with regards to protecting children when we go back to school. What I was wondering from your perspective, are there plans to test students and teachers?
No, not currently. There are no plans for that. Unless,
Neither
of course,
teachers either.
unless, of course, there's an outbreak, that may change the decision. Our sampling so far, Wendy, has shown that we don't appear to have any outbreaks or clusters that are causing infections widely at the minute. I am really reassured by this. That is why we're moving down the lockdown to level 2 and hopefully to level 1. There's nothing that is, no evidence that's come to me that has made me see a reason not to change that plan. We are not planning to test everybody on the islands. We're continuing to do sampling of the most, what we feel is the at-risk groups, and we are have worked our way very well through those groups.
Okay, cool. So even when school goes back, you don't think you'll be testing teachers?
We might change on that point. I don't currently have a plan to do that. I don't feel the need to do that, no.
Okay, thank you. That's all my questions.
Okay, thank you very much, Wendy. Thank you, Dr. Lee. We're going to go now to our panel, beginning with Premier.
Thank you, Donna. Hello, everyone. Well, following Dr. Lee's report and the also great report yesterday, I think everyone must be anticipating what I'm about to say. I think Dr. Lee sort of indicated that just now, that we are continuing the plan to move to level 2 suppression with effect from Sunday coming, the 21st of June. In practical terms, that means that as of the 21st of June, there will be further softening of restrictions, some starting on the 21st, some starting on the 5th of July, and others on the 19th of July. At 4:30 a.m. on Sunday, the 21st of June, 2020, the hard curfew will come to an end. From Sunday the 21st, persons will no longer be subject to the shelter-in-place requirements or to restrictions on traveling to certain places on certain days based on their surnames. Persons will, however, still be required to maintain social distancing requirements and to wear a mask while indoors in public places where they can't essentially stay 2 meters or 6 feet away from the nearest person. And I know this will be greeted with a lot of welcome. As of Sunday the 21st, there will no longer be a prohibition on persons visiting each other's homes. This also means that domestic helpers and caregivers will be allowed to return to work. The definition of public meeting and the restrictions around the number of persons who can gather will change in Grand Cayman, and gatherings of up to 25 persons will be permitted. In Cayman Brac, has been no change, and there will be no change, and 25 persons or less will continue to be able to gather. Social distancing requirements continue to apply. For absolute clarity, this does not relate to Little Cayman, which has no such restrictions except protocols around social distancing and the wearing of masks in public places. All processions and festive ceremonies, carnivals, parties, dances, concerts will continue to be banned both in Grand Cayman and Cayman Brac, regardless of the number of people involved. Most establishments, institutions, businesses, organizations, and offices, including churches, cinemas, theaters, beauty salons, barbers, spa, and masseuse services, and medical and dental offices subject to approval from the HPC. In the case of the medical and dental offices, will be able to fully operate, but must all observe the social distance requirements and enforce the wearing of masks. These establishments are not subject to the social gathering restriction of 25 persons maximum. They are only subject to ensuring that the distancing requirements are properly maintained and the mask wearing is enforced. However, even though offices can be opened, we are still encouraging businesses and managers, particularly those in the financial services sector, to allow as many staff as possible to continue to operate remotely, particularly if there will be issues with the distancing requirements within offices. Restaurants and bars in Grand Cayman will continue to be able to serve customers on any patio or other outdoor area which forms a part of the premises of the bar or restaurant from the 21st of June 2020, now subject to the following amended restrictions. Each table must still remain at least 8 feet apart, but there are no longer limitations on how many persons may sit at the table, but they must continue to maintain the 6 feet or 2-meter separation. No person shall be seated or served at an indoor counter in a bar or restaurant. Servers and front of house staff shall continue to wear masks or cloth face coverings while serving customers. But going forward from the 21st, restaurants and bars will be permitted to operate within the hours they are licensed so to do. That is within the hours of operation permitted under the liquor licensing law, the Sunday trading law, and or the trade and business licensing law. However, it should be noted that karaoke and dancing are still not permitted at this stage. In Grand Cayman and Cayman Brac, persons will now be able to host or attend a wedding with no more than 25 persons other than the bridegroom, bride, official witnesses, and the marriage officer. Similarly, with respect to funerals in Grand Cayman and Cayman Brac, the number of persons allowed to attend, in addition to the 6 pallbearers, the officiants, and essential mortuary staff, has been increased from 10 to 25. Persons will now be allowed to exercise at any time, but shall be subject to the public meeting and social distancing requirements. Restrictions on the type of activities that may be conducted on beaches will also fall away on the 21st of June, Sunday coming. Persons at beaches will, however, still be subject to social distancing requirements if they are outside the same household, and gatherings of no more than 25 persons. From 21st of June, strata and public pools can be accessed by persons from different households, subject to gatherings not exceeding 25 persons, as well as persons observing social distancing requirements with persons from outside their households. Scuba diving and snorkeling are allowed. However, persons are asked to note that they must not rent any scuba or snorkeling equipment, with the exception of tanks, for any scuba diving activity, including for training in scuba diving or snorkeling. In other words, we don't want you using other masks and or as we call them, goggles and snorkels that other persons have previously used. Persons in Grand Cayman will now be allowed to use a boat for any purpose once there are not more than 10 persons on the boat. Persons in Grand Cayman are, however, still not allowed to travel for pleasure by boat to visit Cayman Brac or Little Cayman. Everyone is reminded that they are still not allowed to operate or maneuver a boat so as to congregate or gather with any person or other boat or vessel where the number of persons gathering exceeds 10 persons. That is from the 21st of June. Additionally, the restrictions on persons not congregating or conducting any boating activity in the waters in the areas specified as Starfish Point, Rum Point, the Sandbar, and Stingray City, continue at this stage. Persons in Cayman Brac will now be allowed to use a boat subject to there being no more than 10 persons on each boat. Persons in Cayman Brac and Little Cayman, however, are still not allowed to travel by boat for pleasure to visit Grand Cayman. With regard to inter-island travel, the current restrictions remain. Persons in Grand Cayman are not permitted to travel by boat to Cayman Brac or Little Cayman, except for transport of freight to Cayman Brac or Little Cayman. From the 21st of June, a person who wishes to travel from Grand Cayman to Cayman Brac or Little Cayman by air shall, prior to traveling, notify the medical officer of health of the proposed travel, remain at a place of isolation as specified by the medical officer of health for a period not less than 14 days, and receive a negative test result for the virus. That is the new regime from the 21st of June up until the 4th of July. The following changes will take effect on the 5th of July 2020. That is, as we keep reminding people, as long as the current trend of results continues, that we don't have some major outbreak or some reason to do what some, in fact, many other countries and states are having to do. From Sunday, the 5th of July 2020, all educational institutions and facilities, including summer camps and vacation Bible schools, may commence full operations, including social and sporting activities. It should be noted, however, that sporting activities at an educational institution or facility are subject to the requirement that persons not engage in contact sports before the 19th of July. From Sunday, the 5th of July, in both Grand Cayman and Cayman Brac, restaurants and bars will be able to offer both indoor and outdoor services. However, the following conditions will apply. Each table must be at least 6 feet apart, but there will be no limitations on how many persons can sit at a table, and the distancing requirements will be reduced from 6 feet to 3 feet. That is for persons who are not of the same household. Servers in front of house staff shall continue to wear masks or cloth face coverings while serving customers, and a restaurant or bar will be permitted to operate within the hours of operation allowed by their license and as permitted by the liquor licensing law, the Sunday trading law, and the trade and business licensing law. In Grand Cayman, persons will be able to exercise in a strata gym and public gym from the 5th of July. And And I know this is very important to many people, so I'll pause so that people, I don't just run from one point into the other. From 5th of July, a person who wishes to travel from Grand Cayman to Cayman Brac or Little Cayman shall, prior to traveling, notify the medical office of health of the proposed travel and be tested for the virus. On the receipt of a negative result, the individual will be transported or must be transported directly to the airport for the flight to Cayman Brac. So that everyone is clear, the current arrangements which people have become used to, although they complain bitterly about them, of a 14-day isolation period before you go to the BRAC will continue from until the 5th of July. But from the 5th of July, you simply need to notify the medical office of health and have a test done and receive a negative result, and you may go to the BRAC. And although this is fairly obvious, I've been asked this by a number of people. The reason for that is that we know as for certain that Little Cayman is COVID-free because we tested every person there. We are fairly certain that Cayman Brac is COVID-free because we've tested 51% of the people there. We know, however, that the virus is still very much among us in Grand Cayman. And we really want to do everything we can to reduce the risk of reintroducing the virus into Cayman Brac and to prevent it from getting to Little Cayman. So although the test just before you go is no guarantee, it certainly goes a significant way to reduce the risk that persons going to the BRAC may carry the virus with them. Now, from the 19th, the restrictions or the regulations that I've just described, which would take effect from the 5th of July, will continue until the 19th of July. From the 19th of July onwards, managers or operators of a restaurant or bar may permit customers to engage in dancing or karaoke at the restaurant or bar. Nightclubs may resume operations. Persons may engage in contact sports. And in Grand Cayman, there will no longer be a prohibition on more than 10 persons congregating or gathering with others on other boats. And the restriction, or the prohibition, I should say, of boats or persons congregating at Starfish Point, Rum Point, Sandbar, and Stingray City will also fall away. The regulations will continue until the 2nd of August 2020 or until such later date as the Cabinet may specify. However, as I think everyone will be aware, we will continue to monitor carefully what is transpiring. As Dr. Lee has indicated, we continue to watch very carefully what is happening with the result of the testing. We really don't see a great deal of sense in simply going through the entire population, testing every person that would make themselves available. We've gone through all of the or are going through all of the various demographics. I think the last ones we're dealing with now are the caregivers and domestics. And then we will circle back and start testing again frontline staff, because if there is going to be an uptick in the infection rate as a result of the reopening of these various sectors and putting more people back into circulation and in contact with each other, we are likely to see it first in the frontline staff, because they are the people who have the greatest interaction with greater numbers of people. We certainly don't want what has happened in many other places to occur here. As I've said, I don't think I have the fortitude to to go back into a full lockdown again and had to deal with all of this. The news from around the world is not at all good. We have 18 states in the United States of America that have seen significant spikes since their reopening. We have seen what has happened in Beijing. I think the case in New Zealand, they've dealt with that in their usual very effective manner. We want to avoid, as far as possible, the outbreaks and clusters. And that's why we have been so cautious, and we are still being so cautious in the reopening, so that we pause at every 2 weeks and see what the impact of the last reopening has been on the infection rate. So far, it hasn't affected it at all. I think, subject to correction, just off the top of my head, our infection rate is somewhere between 0.5 and 0.8%, which is very, very good, and thus we are able to take these further steps as we are doing now. Again, I want to thank the entire country for, in large part, the incredible cooperation and support for the actions that the government has taken. I think everyone knows, and the government is certainly working feverishly on dealing with the economic fallout from all of this, trying to address the concerns of people about food, shelter, employment, and doing everything we can to stimulate the local economy, get development and construction moving, because that triggers so much of the other activity, economic activity across the economy. And thankfully, financial services is still going well. We're also focusing very deliberately on, although I have to say with not a great deal of success so far, on trying to figure out how we reopen our borders without significantly increasing the risk of introducing a possibly more virulent version of the virus here and undermining the tremendous success we've had so far. But at some point, we must reopen our borders. We can't stay locked down forever. And so we've got to find a way. As we have found a way through this epidemic in Cayman so far, we are confident, find a way to manage that. But again, looking at what's been happening around the rest of the world, I think we are getting more lessons in what not to do than really in what we ought to do. But we'll figure it out. Of that, I am absolutely confident.
Thank you, Premier McLaughlin. Lots of happy people out there. I hear they're popping champagne and all kinds of stuff going on. Your Excellency.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, it really is very positive, and it's great to welcome that set of announcements. And I really do hope that gives everybody a lift on the islands, and everybody deserves that for all the cooperation and hard work that's gone into where we are today. And I just think on testing, it is worth saying again that this has been an outstanding success of our response. And I think if you look at this global table, we're now up to the third place in the world in terms of tests for the number of people that we have. Of course, we're a small territory, and that's an advantage, but there are an awful lot of small countries and territories in that list, and we're right up there above most of them. So that's very good. But the key part of that story is that it gives us the confidence to be able to move to suppression level 2, because we have such a large evidence base to open up safely. So again, I just want to really reiterate what the Premier has said and welcome very much those significant announcements we've made today. I think it is the case that there is still so much uncertainty and complexity out there in the world in dealing with COVID-19. We've heard already about China and New Zealand, but you just have to look at South America, South Asia, and what's happening in the States. There's some really difficult situations out there, but we at least have got ourselves into a very positive position. And I think, as panel members have said before, Government measures are reducing all the time, but the onus is now on each of us. It's individual responsibility. We really do have to keep going with social distancing, keep going with basic hygiene and good respiratory behaviour and wearing masks in public. And that's really important as we continue to move forward and not let our guard down. And I do also just want to say that the border clearly remains our big challenge, but nobody out there has got all the answers to this. But we're watching very closely what others are doing, and there's a lot of work going on to work out how we can safely open our borders. So let me just say a big thank you to all of you again for your cooperation in helping get us to this place. And then finally on COVID, I also, as John Lee said, very much welcome this new drug that's been trialled. But I do want to underline this has been trialled in the UK. It's actually Oxford University which is responsible for this. So again, underlining the UK's very strong science base, and there's lots of work going on vaccines in the UK, and there are trials in the UK for rapid tests. So we're keeping a very close eye on all of that. Secondly, I want to just say that I'm now very pleased to say that on evacuation flights for India, we will have a flight to Chennai on the 3rd of July. Now, this has not been an easy flight to arrange with the Indian government because of stringent requirements for personal protective equipment on the flight. But we have arranged for British Airways to come here and fly Indian nationals to London, and then using one of British Airways' partners, Qatar Airways, they will fly those Indian nationals on to Chennai. We will arrange a second leg, a second plane to do this if there is sufficient demand there. So we want to just test demand over the next few days, and details on how you can book on this flight will be released very soon. And let me just underline again, this flight is only for Indian nationals. We also remain in discussion with BA about 2 flights to London in August for students and families who need to go to the UK, probably the first week in August and the last week in August. And again, we will release details of those just as soon as we can. I want to give another shout out for the Cayman Islands Regiment, because the deadline for recruitment ends on Sunday the 21st. As you know, we're recruiting 50 part-time reservist positions. We've had over 250 applications, which is really positive response. I continue to encourage even more Caymanians to apply, and I would like to thank our UK military assistance team who are helping us sift the applicants and helping design a 2-week training course for the new reservists. And I'll leave it there today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Your Excellency. Minister of Health.
That was quick though, huh? Good afternoon, everyone. Grand Cayman, Cayman Brac, Little Cayman, and our Caymanian diaspora listening in. Thank you, Premier, for those announcements. And we must know that some will say we are moving too slow, and some will say, hold on, you're moving too fast. We hear it every day, and yet we can still be proud as a nation that what we did, fast or slow, was somewhat the right decision to ensure that everyone appreciates that we were very deliberate and caring about all lives in the Cayman Islands. We have to thank God for his mercies and for guiding the people that he selected for office to run this country. Maybe some will look back and smile at what we did and say thank you. You've just heard the Premier announce all the new measures, and I'm kindly asking to remember that face masks and washing of hands will be very important for a little while longer. Some of us known each other from childhood days, went to primary school, middle school, high school together, and has never been apart from each other for 3 months. And your first reaction is to hug that friend or to get lovey-dovey, as we would say. But I'm asking you to just be a little patient as we figure out things and learn from the world how we should or should not go about the new norms of today. Remember, there are no experts of COVID-19. Every day, they're learning something new about Corona. I know it's hard not to give that affectionate Caribbean greeting, but if you feel pressed to do so, Get in, and get out quickly and step back in your safe space. We never want to go back in full lockdown or have a major breakout. Thank God, indeed, we are not like some countries trying to play catch up. Scripture reading for today is Psalms 100, 1 through 5. Make a joyful noise unto the Lord, all ye lands. Serve the Lord with gladness. Come before his presence with singing. Know ye that the Lord, he is God. It is he that hath made us, and not we ourselves. We are his people and the sheep of his pastures. Enter his gates with thanksgiving and praise. Be thankful unto him and bless his name. For the Lord is good. His mercy is everlasting, and his truth endureth to all generations. May the Lord add a blessing to the reading of this word. Shout outs today. I want to thank those of you who prayed and are still praying and fasting for us. The angels are smiling on you. I want to say Dejanay Joseph, Ian Berry, Nellie Pucci, Anne Smith, Tiffany Seymour, Jasmine Robinson, who has a sweet 16th birthday today, your mom, Natasha Powell, wants to wish you a happy birthday, but I wish all of those names I just called a happy birthday. Stay safe. We're still getting a lot of calls, and I thought I might mention publicly the walking tracks. They're actually open. I understand that some of the padlocks are still on the gates. We've discussed this in our caucus, and this should be addressed very, very shortly. Only the National Stadium, Truman Bodden, is not supposed to be open. So we will follow up further on this, but we've already made some progress in trying to ensure that the walking tracks are made available for persons walking in the afternoon. We are a blessed country. We ought to thank God for his blessings and mercies on us. I know some are feeling more comfortable with the way things are moving as we continue to move towards fuller reopening our local economy and being able to be more social. I pray that you will keep in mind that even though many restrictions have been eased to date, that you will continue the recommended prevention measures and to protect each other. Do not lose your sense of responsibility for the health and lives of your family, your friends, and community. Let us not all become complacent at this time, at this critical time. I'm proud to be a part of the community that has shown our strength and resilience despite the challenges and struggles we are indeed in the world have been facing. I urge you to continue to pray for your leaders in government, in the public service, in private industries, and in science and in medicine. We are a country that have much to be thankful for. I'm reminded of that daily as I see the hard work, knowledge that is brought to the table every single day. As Minister of Culture, I want to say how proud I am to see how Caymanians and residents have truly shown their Caymankind attitudes. Caymankind may be a new term, but the Caymankind spirit has been around throughout our history. We are an incredible people who have shown that little access.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman.
So as someone who is proud of our maritime history and proud of our motto, he had founded it upon the seas. I wanted to also highlight yesterday's celebration of World Sea Turtle Day. As many may be aware, the Cayman Turtle Center has planned 2 green sea turtle releases to mark World Sea Turtle Day, and as a part of the continuing its conservation efforts, 5 yearling turtles were released into our waters yesterday, and another 5 will be released tomorrow. What better way to celebrate the animals that provided sustenance for these islands agriculturally and economically throughout our history? Tomorrow's release will once again be done virtually due to the COVID-19 restrictions. It will be live streamed on the Turtle Center Island Wildlife Encounter Facebook page beginning at 9 a.m. I encourage you all to sponsor and name a turtle. You can learn more at www.caymanturtle.org. turtles.ky. The facility has been releasing turtles consistently for decades now, and a recent press release from the Turtle Center revealed to date that it has released more than 32,000 of its captive bred sea turtles into the wild. Also, it is indeed a joy to hear that the Department of Environment has reported an increase in turtle nesting, primarily due to the lockdown measures and decrease in human activity on our beaches. This is but one silver lining to the dark cloud that is the COVID-19 pandemic. I congratulate the hard work of those involved in this conservation effort over the years and pledge to support the continued educational and cultural aspects of this very important work happening here in the Cayman Islands, a place I am so proud and most humble to call home. It would be remiss of me not to mention the passing of one of our The country mourns the loss of one of its greatest entrepreneurs who built the Tortuga Empire into what it is today. I want to take a minute to honor Mr. Hamity's contribution to the Human Tissue Transplant Council. As a member of the council and leading advocate, he played a pivotal role in the tireless work needed to get our own tissue transplant capabilities here in the Cayman Islands, which will very soon come to fruition. Though we are saddened he will not see the first transplant take place, we are grateful of the opportunity to have worked with him. He's left behind an indelible legacy which encompasses more than just the rum we all enjoy. Mr. Hamady had a passion for organ transplants, as he too was a recipient of an organ which helped save his own life for many years and hoped it would help save many, many more. To his family and friends, you are in our thoughts and prayers through this very difficult time. I thank you and God bless you.
Thank you very much, Minister of Health. I'll begin with questions today before we go to the media on Zoom. Just some clarification from your announcements, Premier McLaughlin, on various things that are opening, such as churches. If you could clarify the issues with churches, what they will be able to, can they go back at capacity? It's just clarification. People are missing some of what you've said, and they just want to make sure, some of the pastors want to make sure that they can open, they can open, how many people, that sort of thing.
As they say, repetition bears emphasis, right? So churches are not subject to the 25-person gathering restriction, but they are subject to the restrictions or the protocols with respect to distancing. So depending on the size of the church will depend on how many people are lawfully able to gather from the 21st of June going forward.
Okay, so staycations.
Staycations are permitted as of the 21st of June.
Okay. Preschools.
Preschools, yes. Working from my memory here now, but I don't want to give people the wrong date. Yes.
Yes, July 5th.
Yes, educational institutions and facilities from this 5th of July.
Okay. I think you mentioned strata gyms, but all gyms can open from a certain date as well?
Yes, all gyms from the 5th of July.
As well. Okay. And finally, contact sports, such as
19th of July.
Rugby and all that. Okay. Okay, so we're good. I think I have one. I do have one more thing to say, just to the listening public, for those who are not getting everything that you're saying, that they can just go online to youtube.com/CIG television and re-listen to the remarks made by the Honorable Premier, and then you'll get it there fully, rather than having to ask the same questions over and over again. Flights to the United States, Miami in particular, do we know anything on those, or should persons contact Your Excellency, Cayman Airways to find out?
I think contact the students. They're definitely looking at flights for students, and there are some Cayman Airways flights announced, but not beyond about the next few weeks. But I think they need to speak to Cayman Airways, and responsibility for those flights has now passed to the Premier's Ministry, Employment and Border Control, and CBC. My office is focused very much on negotiations with foreign governments and the BA flights.
Okay. Somebody did have a question about students who will be returning to school overseas. Will they be tested before they go? Is that a norm? Do we know, Dr. Lee? Is it a norm to test students before they leave to go back to school? Okay, the answer is no. It's not something that's done. Okay, that's all the questions for me.
Well, just going to say that would be part of the protocol of the country they're going to. And for most countries you go to now, you're going to wind up in an isolation facility. We're trying to work, I think the governor has something good to say about that, but for the UK, because of the incredible record of not just Cayman, but the other overseas territories, we are hopeful we will have an exemption from people traveling from here to the UK. But otherwise, in the case of the UK, you're supposed to go into self-isolation for 14 days.
Okay, we have any word on the U.S.? How that might work on that end?
I think it's self-isolation in the U.S. as well, certainly in Florida.
Okay, that's very important because I think a lot of students out there are thinking they can just get off the plane and go back to school. Okay, thank you very much for that. We're going to go first to Ralph at Caymanian Times. Ralph, please go ahead.
Good afternoon, members of the panel. Good afternoon, Mr. Premier. And my first two questions are for you. And thank you for the good news. And you'll probably notice a little smile in my, on my face. First question: will the competent authority will now be closed?
Yes, with effect from the 21st of June.
Very good. Okay. I have some questions from those who are planning carnivals. Just to clarify, what day will carnival be allowed?
Not until we get to level 1 suppression. So, assuming things continue as they have been, sometime in August, I would hope.
And that gives them time with their planning. And the final question: how do you feel being able to give the good news today?
No, I'm absolutely delighted. I mean, we've been working at this so long and so hard that you reach a point where you're not really overjoyed anymore. You're just pleased, really, that you managed to achieve this. I think that's where we are. I think one day, when we're all able to look back at this, I think we might have a greater sense of what we've achieved. But right now, we're still very much in the trenches. This is but one phase. I say to my colleagues, I think we've won this round with Mr. COVID. But as we look around the world, it is quite possible that there will be another round, or another round, or another round. And the great challenge, as I mentioned before, looms large in our thinking, our consideration, which is how do we reopen the borders, and how do we manage to sustain this economy and our people in the meantime. So, not a great deal of time for celebrating because we are far from having won the victory.
Thank you. Thank you. My next question is for Mr. Seymour. Mr. Seymour, thank you for your presentation today as well. Regarding the musicians, as you know, I'm a DJ, and some of the musicians are getting ready to go back to work. As you know, they've been off for quite some time. Some of us provide background music, as you know. Can you confirm when these musicians will be able to go back to work?
Background music. I'll have to background music, the DJs playing.
Yes, that's allowed.
That's allowed from the 21st.
Although you have to be careful because Caribbean people find it difficult to hear that music and don't dance, but no dancing allowed for right now.
Okay, thanks for clarifying that.
But since you mentioned the musicians, the deadline is actually this Friday, and we're trying to contact as much people as possible. We had about 50-something people that never sent in a form and signed it. We've contacted almost about half of them, but there's still a considerable amount of people or musicians who have not sent in a form. So if you haven't received your check by now, it means you probably haven't filled out your form. So please do all possible to email it to sharon.roberts@gov.ky, and everything should be okay.
And staying on the topic of music, and I look at musicians and entertainers on the same platform. As you know, there has been some concern that our local musicians do not get enough airplay, do not get enough opportunities to work in our local market. I think this is an opportunity right now with post-COVID era to kind of put some emphasis in that area and ensure that our local musicians and entertainers get some opportunity to really display and develop their skills. What is your concern regarding that?
Well, I'm a big supporter of that. I've hosted many programs myself in terms of ensuring that local musicians get exposure. And, I've met with Off-Reg and some of the radio stations trying to get more airplay for local musicians, which have some good caliber music. We haven't reached a conclusion as yet, but it definitely is something that is one of the pet peeves of mine, and we have to bring that to some resolve. Such a small island like this, with the amount of talent that we have, we have to ensure that is heard.
And thank you, Minister. And I'll make way for my other colleagues who I'm sure have a number of questions. Thank you very much, Donna.
Okay, thank you, Ralph. We go now to Reshma at the Compass.
Thank you, Donna. Good afternoon to the panel. My first question goes to the governor in relation to the flight for the Indian nationals. Can you say what the capacity is going to be like for that flight, and if UK visas would be required, or it's just going to be a quick exchange of passengers when they get to London?
Yes, it's about 300 people, and we've already been speaking to UK Border Force about transit visas, so that's been that has been resolved. They will have to change aircraft in London, and it may go the next day, but all those details are currently being worked out, and we'll confirm that very soon. But it will be the 3rd of July leaving Cayman.
Okay, great. I had a quick question come in asking if that flight is not filled, would you accept, say, students who need to go back to the UK on that flight?
No, that flight's just for Indian nationals. We're working on flights in August for students, so we'll keep those two separate.
Okay, great. Thank you. This is a question of clarification for the Premier. As we move into the next phase, is there any requirement for domestic workers, helpers, beauty salon employees, etc., to be tested before they get back out to work?
No requirement, but we encourage it. We are in the process of testing about 650, I'm told now, but there's no requirement. We're not testing everybody that goes back to work anywhere. We're doing samplings. As I said before, there are about 5,000 persons with best we were able to estimate within that broad category of caregiver domestic. So we're not going to try to test all of those.
Okay, great. Thank you. Now, a point of clarification as well in relation to the rental of dive equipment. Can you say at what point in your timeline that will be allowed?
I think when we get to level 1, which would, assuming that we don't have to pause or to roll back any of these liftings. I'd say probably somewhere around the first week in August.
Okay. Now, you touched on it in your presentation, but you didn't, unless I missed it, you didn't give a timeline for the border reopening. I know the governor said, and you've said as well,
It's still 1st September.
Okay. Still
That's actually been ordered by cabinet. So unless something comes around to cause us to change it, that's the date we're all working towards.
Okay, perfect. That brings me to my next question. Now that we're working with a specific date, where are we in terms of travel protocols, requirements for those returning to our shores? Have you gotten to that point of discussion?
Well, that's what I was saying at the beginning, is that we are working, but there is little in terms of encouragement so far about any truly safe way to allow international travel to resume. So everywhere in the world is dealing with these challenges, So, and what's happening in the U.S. in particular now is hugely discouraging. Instead of the infections going down, they're climbing steadily. We look around the region. Brazil is probably going to go through the 1 million case mark in the next couple of weeks, and that's only the people that they tested. They're not out doing what we're doing, chasing the virus down and screening. So you can believe the actual number is significantly more than that, and the numbers of people dying from the virus worldwide continue to climb. So there isn't a great deal of encouraging stories around. New Zealand being probably the one that stands way above everywhere else in terms of how they operate. But again, they have proven that they have challenges when they open their borders as well. So this is a massive challenge. We're looking at various ways to possibly reopen the borders, but again, it comes down to either the discovery of some medication which basically turns the flu, the virus, into nothing much more than a bad flu. There'll be people who say, and I read a lot of this stuff, they compare our infection rate with that in the United States and say it's about the same, which is absolute nonsense. Obviously, they're only testing people that are sick or have symptoms, so they have really no idea right across the United States and across most of the world what the actual numbers are of people who do have the virus. And while the virus doesn't prove to be a killer, really, with respect to young children, the mortality rate for persons over 70 is quite significant. 27%, I think Dr. Lee was saying to us this afternoon. I'm not sure we are ready to run that sort of risk in this country. In this country, it's not just black lives that matter and white lives that matter. Every life matters, and that's the principle that we've upheld, and that's one we are going to continue to.
Okay, thank you for that. Maybe it's premature to ask at this point, but naturally you would expect that people who want to return to our shores want to know if they'll have to isolate for 14 days, what sort of restrictions they will be subjected to. Are you at any point, are you at that point where you can even give us a little inkling of what government is looking at when we get to that stage?
Well, at this stage, it is still, you need to isolate in a government-run facility. We are looking anxiously at measures that we could possibly employ where we could have some confidence and certainty that persons who are in self-isolation are actually self-isolating and not popping out to fosters because they feel perfectly well. So we are looking at those. we've seen one or two encouraging ways that might be possible, but we certainly are not there yet.
Okay. Now, you touched on summer camps, which I'm sure parents will celebrate for, but do you have a timeline on when schools itself will reopen, or a formal decision from government on what's going to happen with schools? Are they going to restart the year? Are they going to continue on to the next grade? Can you share that with us?
As far as I'm aware, certainly the government schools are expected to reopen as scheduled. And while I know there's been a lot of talk around it, I do not believe any decision has been taken to essentially, as has been suggested by some people, essentially write off the 2018-2019 school year and start all over again. I do not believe that is what is being proposed.
Okay, now the Minister of Education was on Radio Cayman today. Is there any particular reason why she's not joining us on the briefings to answer questions in relation to education? I know we've asked a couple of times now to have her on. I'm just curious.
She's been on twice.
Since that time, we've asked.
Anytime there's a request, we accommodate it. She's been on twice, so it's really not fair to say she doesn't come on to the briefing. She's been on twice.
I didn't say that. Apologies if it came across that way. I just asked if there's a particular reason why we didn't hear from her recently.
Because she's been on twice. If there is a request that you want a special session on education, we did one on pensions. We've done two on education. We've had the Minister of Finance. We've had the Minister of Commerce. Anytime there is a particular focus by the media on a particular area, more than happy for the Minister or whoever else can help answer the questions to come. You just need say so.
Okay, I will put in that request then to have education specific questions.
We'll do that tomorrow. We're going to have someone from work. I think it was Wendy who requested that, so we'll have someone on. Not tomorrow.
Friday.
Friday. We'll have someone on Friday to deal with those issues.
Great. Thank you very much. One final question from me. The Department of Tourism recently released some sanitation guidelines. I'm just curious, how are these guidelines going to be monitored and by whom?
Well, I would expect they would be monitored by the usual range of inspectors, because the Tourism Department, the Department of Health, Public Health, all of those are used to dealing with these issues when it comes to the various establishments here that accommodate visitors. So they have to meet very high standards, and they go through a set of inspections every year. So the systems are already in place to ensure that those things, those protocols are met. We don't have to go and invent a system to do that.
Okay, great. Thank you. That's it from me for today.
Okay, thank you, Reshma. We're going to go now to Wendy from CNS. Wendy, please go ahead.
Hey, Donna, thank you. Can I just follow up with the Premier quickly on some of the things that he's just said about opening the border? When he talks about opening, still targeting the 1st of September, Premier, are you talking about sort of general, like homeowners, people like that, or are you talking about tourists coming back on the possibility of tourists coming back on the 1st of September?
1st of September is tourists or visitors generally. The issue with persons who own homes here or have a second home here or whatever is a separate issue which we are grappling with quite distinctly from. That one's actually easier to manage than persons that come. You might have heard the story, come to visit. You might have heard the story. I won't call the name of the regional country that had the experience with American Airlines flying in 8 or 9 visitors last week, and 11 of them testing positive, and they have wound up in a government-run isolation facility. That's how they're spending their vacation. So I'm not sure what's happening with the others. who would have been exposed perhaps to those persons on the flight and coming through customs, immigration, and so forth. But those are some of the challenges that just reopening to tourists pose, and we are taking the time to pay attention to what is happening elsewhere, as I say, to see and try to learn some of the lessons from that way. No country has yet found a safe way to reopen to international travel, I think, is the bottom line.
So in other words, we're not talking about a sudden influx of tourists that, especially coming from America, where 80% of our visitors are from America. And I mean, as you've rightly pointed out, the level of the virus spread there is unknowable, but it's a lot worse than ours. So I'm just checking that you're not planning on that isn't a realistic goal, that tourists are going to be coming back on the 1st.
Well, that's I mean, we had to fix the date, and we fixed the 1st of September some months ago, a couple of months ago now, and that's the date we're working towards. Now, the closer we get to it, the more we have to look again. We remain hopeful, but as I've said before more than once, I'm not terribly optimistic that it is a date that we're going to be able to get there. But we are working towards that date with some of the hotel owners and so forth, because everybody's anxious to reopen. So we are working feverishly to try to find what is available in terms of testing. How quickly can you turn these tests around? I mean, at some point we're going to have to take some risks. We just can't stay in lockdown forever. But we want to know what the risks are and come to an acknowledgement amongst ourselves that it is an acceptable risk in the circumstances. We certainly haven't discovered one of those systems yet.
Right. Okay. The other thing, obviously, I think people will need some reassurance on is the situation with cruise tourism, because a lot of cruise ships are still insisting that they're coming here because of the fact that the borders open in September. So presumably that's going to be even more difficult to handle in the future. So what do you feel about the return of cruise passengers?
I don't see cruise returning anywhere in the region, quite frankly, before next year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. My other question relates to the National Conservation Council and the DOE report, which was it's more of a paper that was published this week about sort of potential recommendations for us to take a different look at how we rebuild the economy post-COVID. I just wondered what your thoughts were about that document, and also whether you think that government could adopt some of those recommendations.
Well, I think some of them, I kept looking in it for how we're going to feed our people and keep roofs over their head in the meantime, but I didn't find anything relating to that. But yes, I mean, there are some observations and some recommendations which I believe that we really need to look long and hard at. But as I say, you know, these goals, while in many instances very laudable, are in many cases a bit idealistic, because they don't take into account the fact that you have thousands of people now who are simply without a job. And we have to find a way as a country for them to be able to make a living and to feed themselves and send their children to school, while we look at some of these other things. But I mean, I certainly, I probably won't be around, but I certainly think that this has given us a chance to look again at a range of things. I mean, it talks about sustainable tourism, but I'm not sure that their definition or interpretation of sustainable tourism is quite the same as mine or the government's, because sustainable tourism, to me, also must include the ability of local people to earn a living as a result of the tourism product that you create. Stay-over tourism has been a massive failure for Cayman in that regard. 70% 70% of the persons who are engaged in sustainable tourism in Cayman are expats. So while I agree entirely, that puts a much less strain on our infrastructure and on our ecology and on the roads and all of those things than cruise tourism. And there's definitely a very ugly side to cruise tourism. You know, I'm not sure that stay-over tourism in its current form is really the best thing that Cayman has ever seen, because we have not found a way for it to really work for the vast majority of people who are employed in that industry. So this thing needs a long and critical look, and I think a lot of preconceptions need to be put to one side when that clinical analysis is done. A lot of people are making a lot of money out of stay-over tourism, but not many of them are Caymanian.
But isn't that something that government can address through policy and work permit systems?
Well, when it's not just about work permits. I mean, simply withholding work permits is simply going to prevent businesses from being able to operate. So it's not, you know, this isn't some rant by me of saying, you know, Caymanians should be doing those jobs and why are the foreigners doing them. The reality is that over time, and this hasn't just happened in 4 or 5 years, this started happening from the time I was a youngster, that, you know, Caymanians, for one reason or another, began to become a much smaller percentage of the people who engage in stay-over tourism. And so I think we, as a country, but billions of dollars have now been invested in infrastructure to deal with stay-over tourism. We've just got to find a way, I believe, to make it work for our people, because most Caymanians are not the owners of these facilities, and the salaries, the wages paid to people in stay-over tourism are so low that most Caymanians won't do those jobs. So it is a very complex set of factors operating. I mean, I think about this sort of stuff all the time, and I think what COVID-19 has done for us really is to give us a chance to pause and think again about the whole picture in terms of Cayman's economy, because when you're running so hard all the time and you can't possibly think of doing something that is going to cause people to lose their income, it's difficult to make those sorts of changes. But now we've got thousands of people unemployed, hotels are shut down, condominiums are shut down, and we're shuttling hundreds of expat workers back home because there is no work for them here in that industry. I said to one of the big operators last week, I said, how do we find a way to get Caymanians to take up those positions, you know, when we slowly reopen? That, I think, is the big challenge and the big question. It's not as simple as saying, you know, oh, there are no jobs here. There are not many jobs here, so Caymanians must have those jobs. Well, only if Caymanians want the jobs in the first place, and then only if they can do them in the second, you know. So it's not as simple as many people like to present it when they call the talk shows, you know.
Okay, thank you very much for a very comprehensive answer. I just have one final question, and this goes back to an answer that you gave regarding agriculture and food security. I can't remember whether it was the last briefing or the briefing before. What I wanted to follow up on was that, yes, obviously, growing produce is very expensive, land here is very expensive, so growing produce is very difficult. But what we do seem to be quite good at is the sort of luxury, kind of fancy stuff, like the you know, hot peppers, pepper jelly, Cayman sea salt, you know, the more sort of, you know, products that are manufactured here, you know, craft products, and there's a lot more coming onto the market. And I was wondering whether the government could assist with the export of those things collectively, and whether the governor's office, even with the UK, could maybe help increase that side of our production when it comes to food and a new sort of area of industry?
Yes, I mean, as one who's been around farming all my life, at one level or the other, it is very difficult to make much when what you're selling is the raw product or raw produce. Where you can actually make money once you got the systems in place and the expertise in place is the value added stuff where you actually, as you say, you convert the raw product or produce into something else that you can actually sell for a lot more money. There is some of that's going on here, a sort of cottage industry level, but not a great deal of it. I suppose that is a possibility, but again, the cost of labor in Cayman always is going to mean that the price of what you sell is going to be quite high, and so it has to be a premium product, that's almost sort of a boutique kind of product that people are prepared to pay premium prices for, because you can get things like pepper jelly and those sorts of things at much lower rates in places like Jamaica and across the region. I know because I've seen them, bought them myself. So, but it is, if my bandwidth would allow, I mean, it's one of the things I'm keenly interested in. Maybe I can beg somebody in some other government to come back as Minister of Agriculture or something.
Okay, thank you for that. Appreciate it. Those are all my questions, Donna. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Wendy. I do have a few questions before we wrap up. Helpers going back into homes. If someone wants to have their helper tested for whatever reason, do they have to pay to have the test done?
No, government doesn't charge for any of the testing that is done. But it has been quite regimented about the areas that we are, because we were working towards a plan. Right. So unless somebody there was some clinical reason why the person needed to be tested, if you didn't fall into that band, they weren't doing it. I know they're doing that sector now, but I'm not sure if they've had enough volunteers. But maybe Dr. Williams or the CMO can speak to that.
There is a link on the government website, so I haven't checked myself that it's there, but I understand it's there, that if you are a touch therapist or a carer for a vulnerable group, you can present yourself and put your details down in order for you to get tested if there's some reason that you feel that you're looking after people who might be vulnerable.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Lee and Premier McLaughlin. Exemption letters for salons and so forth. Did you mention anything about those? Will they be required anymore to contact curfew time?
No, nobody will need exemption letters after the 21st.
All righty. Just wanted to clarify that for sure. Your Excellency, any updates on flights to Jamaica, and then any updates on the July air bridge to the UK?
So I think Jamaica, there have been a number of flights already, and clearly the situation is easing in Jamaica. So I think there will be more flights planned. That there won't be a separate July air bridge to the UK. We've just got the two. It's the two in August for students. As I've got the mic, can I just say that the Indian community are obviously wanting to know how to book tickets. Just ask them to be patient for a day or so. Details of how you can book will be released soon, but there's no need to ring my office or contact the helpline until we make available details of how to book. So just ask for a little bit of patience there. And again, a question about the Nicaraguans. I do very much understand the very difficult situation of the Nicaraguan community, but just to say again, we have restarted negotiations and we're doing everything we can.
Okay. Any final words from the panel?
I got two final requests for birthday wishes. Someone just we welcome someone in their teens, 13-year-old Araya Adam Cotterell and Zaya Bodden from the Miles, Moulton, and Oliver family. Happy birthday to you all.
Happy birthday to them. All righty. Well, we thank you, the public, for joining us for today's press briefing, and to our esteemed panelists as well. A reminder to go online to gov.ky/coronavirus if you'd like any information on what's happening as it relates to coronavirus. Also remember, if you'd like to take a look again at the remarks made by our panelists today or by the Chief Medical Officer, you can go online to youtube.com/CIG television. We hope that you'll join us again here on a Friday. Until then, be safe. And for those watching television, now you can take a look at today's world and regional statistics.
Obey the laws and wear the gauze. Protect your jaws from septic paws. Stay clean, K-Man. Reflection sells hand sanitizer from $2.99. 10 surgical masks are only $9.99. And the best KN95 masks from only $3.30. Volume discounts available at all 5 Liquor for Less locations. Shedden Road, North Church Street, Savannah, Northside, and the McClendon Drive Airport location. Don't miss the Liquor for Less incredible lockdown price markdowns. Hundreds of fine from $2.99. Cases of ice cold below wholesale prices. Save $9 off liters of. Enjoy our manager specials exclusively at Liquor for Less. Prices so low, we can't say them on the radio. Liquor for Less enforces the wearing of masks, social distancing, and preventative measures to help stop the spread of COVID-19, such as consistent hand washing and only leaving home for essential purposes.
As the community continues to take precautions from COVID-19 and get ready for the hurricane season, it is important to also protect our environment, which ultimately helps us live healthier, happier lives. Let's always remember, proper disposal of masks and other PPE, as with your normal garbage, avoid littering, and do not include any trash in your recycling. Protect yourselves and keep our islands clean. For full guidance, visit www.deh.gov.ky.
Football Association.
Hey, fellas, we ain't gonna ever back down from nobody.
This is Alfredo Whitaker, president of the Cayman Islands Football Association.
I don't care who it is. This is a brotherhood. And if we stand strong together, we can't be denied.
Show your support. Your teams are working hard to be the best.
CIFA. Cayman Islands Football Association. Building a better future for Cayman football.
If one of us go down, we have another, and another, and another that's ready to fight.
Radio Cayman and CIFA, your team. 2020, your year.
So let's hit this field and bang them.
CIFA, Cayman Island Football Association.
Go out and support the matches in your district.
It's not Tool Fest at A.L. Thompson's, but it's almost as good. Tool Fest has been an annual 2-day event since 2009, but because of current events, there will be no live demos. But that's okay, because what will be at Not Tool Fest is the deepest discounts of the year on select hand tools and power tools for 3 weeks. Save big on tools by Makita, Milwaukee, Bosch, Skill, Dremel, and other power brands, and get 15% off all items in the tools department now through July 4th. Remember that Father's Day is June 21st, so give them a big boy toy from A.L. Thompson's during Not Tool Fest.
I've got some beautiful clothes. I know just where they go. Puritan Cleaners.
Puritan Cleaners is pleased to offer a Father's Day special of 17% off on all prepaid orders, $20 and up on gents wearing apparels, starting now until June 25th at all Puritan stores. We also have a seamstress on duty to do your repairs and adjustments. For further details, please call 949-7104. Puritan Cleaners. You feel good when you look good.
More than ever, we need to ensure our friends, neighbors, colleagues, and family are staying well with social distancing. That means being creative. Call them regularly. Create WhatsApp groups. Offer to assist with shopping or running errands. You could use an app like Nextdoor to see if your neighbors need assistance while the world grapples with the latest challenges. Be Cayman kind. Cayman Insurance Center. For 45 years, they have worked with the community and their families on protecting themselves for the future. If you need someone to speak to during these challenging times, call Denise Brown at 814-7229 or Michael Webster at 925-5433. Cayman Insurance Center. They care about you.
Taking your medication when prescribed is important to your health, and your health matters to us.
The Health Services Authority's pharmacy has locations across the islands, including a new convenient prescription refill location at Smith Road Centre for persons with full insurance coverage. HSA has taken additional safety measures to keep you protected during this extraordinary time, with frequent sanitizing, priority for the elderly and pregnant, additional seating for social distancing, and face mask requirements. If you have questions about your medication, contact one of our pharmacists at 949-8600. For more information about our pharmacy hours and locations, visit hsa.ky.
Radio. With the switch of a dial, radio brings you tragedy, comedy, entertainment, information, education, a whole world at your command.
Give me some sound over here.
Radio K-Man's Super Jam Show.
Radio. Proudly sponsored by the Cayman Islands Football Association. SIFA, building a better future for Cayman football.
Word up, and we in effect. Keep on listening.
Super Jam. The Super Jam Show is fueled by the proud sponsorship of insurance agent Michael Webster from Cayman Insurance Center. Don't take chances with your family's future.
Another proud sponsor of the Super Jam Show.
Merengue Town.
Time to feel the rhythm. Time to feel the vibes. It's time for Merengue Town.
It's 2 in the morning. I'm up in the club. I'm doing my style. I'm getting love. And then I saw her. And everything stopped. Little Miss Heartbreaker. She's the baddest in the spot.
So I made my way over with my Caribbean swagger under her spell, hypnotized by her every move. Apple martini sip for every guy trying to get with her. I'ma go over and let's see what it do.
I said hey. Little mama, how you doing? I said hey. Damn, she bad. She made me wanna stop her. Got me in a trance. Think I need a splash of water. She's so hot. I'm burning up. She got a bubble. She got them D's in her cup.
So I made my way over with my Caribbean swagger under her spell, hypnotized by her every move. Apple martini sip for every guy trying to get with her. I'ma go over and let's see what it do.
I said hey. Little mama, how you doing? I said hey. Little mama, how you doing? She's like a breath of fresh air when she walks through the crowd. Got everyone staring. Could be the light of her smile, or the way that she moves. That got me saying. I said hey. Little mama, how you doing? I said hey. Little mama, how you doing? I said hey. Little mama, how you doing? I said hey.
Overtime. Area code 345 LSN overtime.
It's 2 in the morning. I'm up in the club. I'm doing my style. I'm getting love. And then I saw her. And everything stopped. Little Miss Heartbreaker. She's the baddest in the spot.
So I made my way over with my Caribbean swagger under her spell, hypnotized by her every move. Apple martini sip for every guy trying to get with her. I'ma go over and let's see what it do.
I said hey. Little mama, how you doing? I said hey. Little mama, how you doing? Damn, she bad. She made me wanna stop her. Got me in a trance. Think I need a splash of water. She's so hot. I'm burning up. She got a bubble. She got them D's in her cup.
So I made my way over with my Caribbean swagger under her spell, hypnotized by her every move. Apple martini sip for every guy trying to get with her. I'ma go over and let's see what it do.
I said hey. breath of fresh air when she walks through the crowd. Got everyone staring, staring. Could be the light of her smile or the way that she moves that got me saying, saying. I said hey, I said hey, little mama, how you doing? I said hey, I said hey, I said hey, little mama, how you doing? I said hey, I said hey, I said hey, little mama, how you doing? I said hey, I said hey, I said hey, little mama, how you doing? I said hey. It's a real thing, yeah. Girl, I want you the closest. Trust is being broken, but you've always been open. That's why I need you the closest. I need you the closest. I've been losing focus. You're the only one who knows this, and that's why I need you the closest. It's a real thing, yeah. Oh, oh, 'cause I do this like every day. Oh, all I know is one thing, yeah. You seem to never let me down, no, 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 no. Am I dreaming? No, 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 no. It's about time you come around. I've been losing focus, hard to think right now. So much things are going when me run round town. Need you the closest. Need you the closest. Baby, we want you to come a little closer. Cause I'm in need for your love. You are my girl, I'm in love. You me kiss on your neck, me kiss on your shoulder. Me and you have a connection that no one can break, girl. You feel like my best friend. You're a blessing. You're an angel, I feel I'm in heaven. Me lost when you're not by my side. Baby, you wait for me, pray for me, holding it down when I'm out on the grind. Out in the rain, ooh, one look in your eyes, make everything right. No one can do what you do. That's why I need you the closest. You're the only one who knows this, and that's why I need you the closest. I need you the closest. Need you the closest. Need you the closest. Closest. I need you the closest. Closest. I've been losing I've been losing focus, hard to think right now. So much things are gone when me run round town. I've been losing focus, hard to think right now. That's why I need you to know. Girl, you keep me focused. Every time I'm down, I'm feeling lonely. You motivate me to keep going. Whenever I be thinking things is hopeless. That's why I need you the closest. You're the only one who knows this, and that's why I need you the closest. I need you the closest.
Father's Day more than ever, Celebrations wants to deliver an extra special thank you and show appreciation and love to the other unsung hero, Dad. Celebrate your favorite bud with a great gift basket filled with special treats such as fruits, gourmet goodies, beverages of choice, all uniquely designed for him. With every order this Father's Day, Celebrations will be donating part proceeds to local charity, Feed Our Future, and helping to support families. Celebrations will be doing island-wide, safe, non-contact delivery from this Thursday, June 18th until Sunday, June 21st. Call us on 623-2044 or place your order online at www.celebrationsgifts.com. Happy
Area
Father's
code
Day from
345
Celebrations.
LSN overtime.
I going down there record. I go down there record.
Area code 345 LSN overtime.
Bobo, I going down by Walmart, gonna pick up a fish. You want to come over?
Tell me, you're the one for me. Tell me, you're my destiny. Tell me, do you see the sunshine? Tell me when you look in my eyes. Let's meditate, let's get away, let's celebrate the times we have. You're my everything, the air I breathe, the galaxy till the end of time. Tell me you're the one for me. Tell me, are you my destiny? Tell me, do you see the sunshine? Tell me when you look in my eyes. I've been waiting for a while to tell you how I feel. We had our ups and downs, but you always kept it real. Every conversation, I'm amazed by you. The more that we're together, the more I'm changed by you. It's life, you see. Luxuries are the simple things, the simple things. Tell me where we go from here. Name the place and we'll disappear. This our year, make it clear. Yeah, you ain't gotta worry no more, stress no more. The world is yours, pause. Now let's get high. Yeah, it's you and I. Tell me, you're the one for me. Tell me, are you my destiny? Tell me, do you see the sunshine? Tell me when you look in my eyes. Let's meditate, let's get away, let's celebrate the times we have. You're my everything, the air I breathe, the galaxy till the end of time. Tell me, you're the one for me. Tell me, are you my destiny? Tell me, do you see the sunshine? Tell me when you look in my eyes. I see visions, me and you on a mission. Just listen, follow your intuition, no permission to fall back now. Let love somehow take us on the route to your wishes. And let's make them all come true. Wherever it goes, it's all on you, all on you, all on you. There's no denying your body's banging, your character so enlightened. I'm frying the way you move is exciting. I want you, you know I want you to want me too. I gotta be true to my feelings. It's like walking on the ceilings with you.
As the community continues to take precautions from COVID-19, it is important to stay prepared for other disasters now that we're in the hurricane season. Here are some post-hurricane safety tips from the Department of Environmental Health. Did you know you must ensure all utensils are washed with detergent and rinsed with hot water if they make contact with flood water? For full guidance on post-hurricane safety tips, visit www.deh.gov.ky.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman.
It's only 2 species that we have here on the island.
Generations present.
Your voice, your choice.
It is in the best interest of the people of these islands.
Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
The Cayman Islands sees no new cases of COVID-19 reported today. The total number of positives in Cayman remains at 193. 60 of those are considered active cases, with 58 people considered asymptomatic. Of those who have tested positive, 132 have been fully recovered. Good afternoon, I'm Dion Anglin with your headlines and news elsewhere. Oriel College in Oxford has announced that it wants the controversial statue of Cecil Rhodes to be taken down. The governors of the Oxford University College voted today to remove the statue of the colonialist. Campaigners have called for the statue to be taken down, saying it was a symbol of imperialism and racism. And the brother of George Floyd, whose death last month triggered mass anti-racism protests, has asked the UN to investigate the killing of black people at the hands of U.S. police. Philonis Floyd told the UN Human Rights Council the whole world saw how his brother was tortured and killed. He said this proved that black lives did not matter in the U.S. That's a wrap of your headlines. I'm Dion Anglin.
For the latest in news and information,
Follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, radiocayman.gov.ky.
your voice, your choice, your radio.
Obey the laws and wear the gauze. Protect your jaws from septic paws. Stay clean, Cayman. Reflection sells hand sanitizer from $2.99. 10 surgical masks are only $9.99. And the best KN95 masks from only $3.30. Volume discounts available at all 5 Liquor for Less locations. Shedden Road, North Church Street, Savannah, Northside, and the McClendon Drive Airport location. Don't miss the Liquor for Less incredible lockdown price markdowns. Hundreds of fine from $2.99. Cases of ice cold below wholesale prices. Save $9 off liters of. Enjoy our manager specials exclusively at Liquor for Less. Prices so low, we can't say them on the radio. Liquor for Less enforces the wearing of masks, social distancing, and preventative measures to help stop the spread of COVID-19, such as consistent hand washing and only leaving home for essential purposes.
Radio Cayman's Super Jam Show, the #1 drive time entertainment show on your radio, featuring Will Sinatra. Enjoy a mix of pop, hip hop, dancehall,